Guardian Radio 96.9 FM. Fresh news, smart talk, all day.
The views and opinions of the hosts and guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the position of the management and staff of Guardian Network.
Good morning. The vaccine rollout begins. The Prime Minister, his wife, and healthcare workers getting the first COVID vaccines in the country. The Prime Minister describes PLP MPs as contaminants. The PLP chairman has a lot to say about that. And in our discussion today, we focus on the 1-year anniversary of confirmed COVID cases in the country. Where are we now and where we're going? We're going to be looking at that from a business perspective as well, all straight ahead this morning. I'm Dwight Strachan, and this is Morning Blend.
Wake up, it's a new day. It's the start of a new way. You know that it's here. It's the start of the end of the old way. Revolution. Wake up, it's a new day. Wake up, it's a new day.
Good morning again, Bahamas. It is Monday, March 15th, 2021. This is Morning Blend on Guardian Radio 96.9. Again, I'm Dwight Strachan. In a moment, Pamela Musgrove will be joining us. As you said, coming up in Morning Blend Business as well, we'll be looking at the impact the pandemic has had on business in the country over the past 12 months. But first, it's time for the overnight, the latest breaking news from while we're sleeping, and the top national and international headlines this morning. In the overnight, nurse Ruth Bastian, a 46-year healthcare veteran, becoming the first person in the country to receive the COVID-19 vaccine. She got her shot live on television at Loyola Hall on Gladstone Road. Nurse Jacqueline Newbold administered the shot on Bastian's upper right arm shortly after 10 o'clock yesterday morning. The event televised live. Moments later, Dr. Merceline Dal-Regis hopped over to the medical station, proclaiming that she was next for the vaccine. Prime Minister Dr. Minnis, his wife Patricia Minnis, and Minister of Health Robert Wells also got their shots shortly after 2:30 yesterday afternoon. By then, the hall was buzzing with people either getting their vaccination shots or sitting by the observation area. The shots were from the 20,000 doses of AstraZeneca, which were donated to the Bahamas by the government of India and arrived in the country last week. Dal-Regis and the Ministry of Health conducted a pilot event yesterday to troubleshoot any unforeseen issues. The first group of people to get the vaccine, including frontline healthcare workers, volunteers from the Rotary Club and Kiwanis Club, and members of the COVID-19 Vaccine Consultative Committee, which Dal-Regis chairs. The next step will be to troubleshoot for the software for appointments going forward. After receiving his shot from Nurse Bastien, Dr. Menes, who said he has a fear of needles, moved over to the observation area wearing a pink shirt. He sat there for several minutes, occasionally looking around the auditorium. The observation area filled with others who had also received their shots on the perimeter. Meanwhile, Dr. Talrija says that if the Bahamas does not receive additional doses of the AstraZeneca vaccine by the end of the month, the Ministry of Health would hold off on vaccinations until it receives an additional shipment. The country received 20,000 doses of the AstraZeneca vaccine from India. The Ministry of Health started vaccinating health workers, as we said yesterday. Talrija saying that the shots after the initial dose yesterday, the second shot will be administered in 4 to 12 weeks. The Prime Minister on Friday said that instead of vaccinating 10,000 people with the current stock, 20,000 people will be given their first dose. He noted that the Bahamas has an additional 33,600 doses on the way. When asked yesterday about any potential delays in receiving those additional doses, Talrija is saying, quote, "We are really fortunate that the AstraZeneca vaccine, the second dose, is within 12 weeks. There is a commitment. You prepay for vaccines that are due to arrive before the end of March. However, if we look at the end of March, that shipment is not here, we will then have to hold vaccines until we receive that shipment." In other news, leading scores of F&Ms clad in red through the streets of Centerville. The Prime Minister denied on Saturday that the crowd of campaigners was violating COVID-19 protocols. He also predicted that his party will win all 39 seats in the House of Assembly. Menes telling reporters that the Free National Movement received excellent reactions from residents of Centerville during his walkabout. Prime Minister getting some pushback, though, from comments he made about PLP MPs while declaring that there needs to be a new PLP. The Prime Minister described the 4 PLP MPs who were elected in 2017 as, quote, contaminants. He told reporters during an F&M walkabout in Centerville, quote, "Centerville must stay with the F&M. The PLP has had it for a long time, but now they are with us. We have no intention of losing any of our seats. During the last election, we campaigned on corruption. We tried to wipe them all out. 4 of the contaminants escaped. No more contaminants must remain. Completely new PLP." In a statement, though, PLP Chairman Fred Mitchell said the Prime Minister must have, quote, "smelled his top lip." He said the Prime Minister went to Centerville talking utter nonsense by describing the 4 PLP members of Parliament as contaminants. He accused the Prime Minister of resorting to schoolyard tactics, name-calling, and gutter political mudslinging. Chairman Mitchell also saying, quote, "The Prime Minister should go talk to his ma. She could tell him what a contaminant is," end quote. Overseas, Syrians are marking 10 years since peaceful protests against President Bashar Assad's government erupted in March 2011, touching off a popular uprising that quickly turned into a full-blown civil war. Despite a decade of fighting and a broken country, Assad remains firmly in power. Syria is economically devastated and divided into 3 parts. An al-Qaeda-linked group dominates the northwestern Idlib province, with Turkey-backed rebels controlling stretches of the Turkish border. U.S.-backed Syrian Kurdish forces hold around a quarter of the country in the northeast, and Assad controls the rest. The conflict has killed around 500,000 people and displaced half of Syria's pre-war population of 23 million, including more than 5 million who are refugees, mostly in neighboring countries. And after being among the world's hardest hit nations with COVID-19, Chile is now near the top among countries at vaccinating its population against the virus. With more than 25% of its people having received at least one shot, the country of 19 million on South America's Pacific coast is the champion of Latin America. And globally, it is just behind Israel, the United Arab Emirates, and the United Kingdom. That's a far cry from the beginning of the pandemic, when Chile was criticized over its inability to trace and isolate infected people. Government officials and health experts say it was the country's early negotiations with vaccine producers, as well as its past experience with robust vaccination programs, a record praised by the WHO, the World Health Organization. During the first months of the pandemic, the headlines in Chile were bleak, with the country's intensive care units almost full and the government unable to control the virus's spread despite restrictions that included mandatory lockdowns. And from the world of entertainment, from the Grammys overnight, female performers including Beyonce and Taylor Swift had a record-breaking night. A jam-packed but socially distanced show highlighted by live music sorely absent during the pandemic era. 4 women won the top 4 prizes Sunday, including Swift, who became the first female performer to win Album of the Year 3 times. Beyonce, with her 28th win, becoming the most decorated woman in Grammy history. Her winning Song of the Year, and Billie Eilish picking up her 2nd consecutive Record of the Year. Although she felt that Best New Artist winner Megan Thee Stallion deserved the award instead. The women have won all top 4 awards in the past, including Eilish's sweep last year. It marked the first time 4 separate and solo women won the top 4 honors. In sports, another national record, indoor record, broken this season when triple jumper Charisma Taylor leaped 13.61 meters at the NCAA Division I Indoor Track and Field Championships in Arkansas over the weekend. It was a personal best for the Washington State University Cougars Jr., who made the mark twice that evening. To read more about that and how other Bahamians have been doing at the NCAA Championships in today's Guardian Sports section. And Bahamian collegiate basketball player Kai Jones and the Texas Longhorns making sure they were part of the fray for the NCAA Division I men's basketball tournament, securing their ticket outright by winning the Phillips 66 Big 12 Conference Championship. Bahamian sophomore Texas, who could choose to enter the NBA draft this year, was seen cutting down the nets on Saturday night. It was the first Big 12 title for the University of Texas Longhorns men's basketball team, entering the tournament as the number 13 ranked team in the nation. The Longhorns prevailing 91-86 over the nationally number 12 ranked Oklahoma State University Cowboys to win the coveted Big 12 title Saturday night. And now, as March Madness prepares to get underway, 68 teams whose names popped up in the March Madness bracket only thought it was time to celebrate. The next 4 or 5 days figured to be the most nerve-wracking part of their seasons. The NCAA tournament is being played in a pandemic where no player can show up for the games in Indianapolis without 7 negative COVID tests, and no team is really in the tournament until the ball is tipped off because of COVID-19 issues. There's a lot of different things going to be happening, but the top seeds are Michigan, Baylor, and Gonzaga, which is the number 1 overall, and a 2-1 favorite to win it all and complete the first undefeated season since the 1976 Indiana Hoosiers. In the biggest adjustment to a normal March Madness, all the games we played in and around Indianapolis over 19 days. No more worrying about who got shipped to the wrong place. The NCAA did, however, keep the region names, West, East, South, and Midwest, to at least make the bracket look normal. And from the NFL, the Drew Brees era with the New Orleans Saints has ended. That era marked by a Super Bowl celebration, raucous record-setting nights in the rebuilt Superdome, and the undersized quarterback's outsized role in the historic city's rebirth. But Brees, the NFL's leader in career completions and yards passing, has decided to retire after 20 NFL seasons, including his last 15 with New Orleans. In a post, Brees said that he wanted to spend more time with his family. That's sports. And that's the overnight. Time for your first look at weather. In your weather for today, we've got high pressure ridging that will continue to dominate the weather over the country. Beachgoers should exercise caution along East Coast beaches due to the slight risk of rip currents. For all areas today, we're looking at partly sunny and warm conditions with a few stray showers. Tonight should be mostly fair. Winds east to southeast at 10 knots or less in the northwest Bahamas. East, northeast to east, southeast at 10 to 15 knots in the central and southeastern islands. Seas 1 to 3 feet, but slightly higher in easterly swells in the northwestern islands. Sea 2 to 4 feet in the central and southeast Bahamas. Temperature-wise, right now it's about 67 degrees under fair skies in Nassau. Look for highs getting up to around 81 Fahrenheit, 27 Celsius. Overnight lows tonight getting down to about 70 Fahrenheit, 21 Celsius. That's your first look at weather this morning. We'll have your extended outlook coming up after traffic in just a bit.
Wake up, it's a new day. Wake up, it's a new day.
It is time for a break, but when we come back, we are discussing the day's top stories right here on Morning Blend on Guardian Radio 96.9. Your home for fresh news and smart talk all day.
Wake up, it's a new day. Wake up, it's a new day.
Technology serves to make our lives better, so why not your business too? At Custom Computers, we've been maintaining our knowledge and relationships with top tech companies since 1987 and carry only the most trusted brands like Apple, Microsoft, HP, and more. No company has helped more businesses build reliable IT systems than Custom Computers. You name it, we've done it. Call 396-1101 to talk to any of our business experts. Find trust in your tech. Count on Custom Computers.
Tired of banks forcing you to use technology to bank the way they want you to? Your convenience is important. So no matter what your banking needs, Commonwealth Bank's friendly staff are always available in branch for that personal one-on-one service. But when you choose technology, our online and mobile banking app offers you state-of-the-art functionality. The choice is yours. Commonwealth Bank. Bank the way you want.
Always on the go? Missed the show? You can now listen to Guardian Radio talk shows anytime, anywhere on Spotify and YouTube by searching Guardian Radio 96.9 FM or by entering the name of your favorite show. You can also listen by logging on to GuardianTalkRadio.com and clicking on the podcast tab. Guardian Radio, continuing to provide you with fresh news and smart talk anywhere, anytime, all day.
This is Guardian Radio 96.9 FM, Nassau, Bahamas.
Wake up, it's a new day. Wake up, it's a new day. It's the start of a new way. You know that it's the start of the end of the old way. Wake up, it's a new day. Wake up, it's a new day. Wake up, it's a new day.
Welcome back to Morning Blend here on Guardian Radio 96.9. We are streaming live on GuardianTalkRadio.com and on the Guardian Radio app for smart devices. We're also on your televisions on Cable Bahamas Channel 969 and BTC Flow Channel 612. Once again, I'm Dwight Strachan. In a moment, Pamela Musgrove will be joining us. You can also join the conversation. Tweet us at Morning Blend 969 or Facebook, facebook.com/morningblend969. Email us, morningblend@nascar.com, or you can text us on the Guardian Radio text line powered by BTC 422-GR96, 422-4796. Standard text rates apply. We'll give you the phone numbers to call in just a bit. Also, this morning, we've got more weather and traffic. And in a few minutes, we will begin our look back at the year that has been with COVID-19. This is the anniversary of the first confirmed case of COVID in the country. All week long, we will mark milestones in the country, a year of lockdowns and curfews all this week. This is how long we've been doing this, and we're going to be talking a lot about that today. We've got a medical perspective. We have got where we are with the virus now and vaccines, all that coming up. Then in Morning Blend Business, we're going to talk with the business community about what this year has been like for them, the impact it's had on their so much to talk about with them. That's going to be coming up with the business community in our 9 o'clock hour, Morning Blend Business. Before we get to that, though, let's talk about what else is in the news. And in the news, vaccination rollout begins. The Prime Minister, his wife, healthcare workers getting the first dose of the AstraZeneca vaccine yesterday. A big event, televised, streamed live on the internet. Quite a bit happening yesterday. For more on all of this, take a listen to this report from our Berthany McDermott.
Commence whatever things we've done in the past.
Dr. Min is also advising Bahamians.
I'm Jack.
In a few short minutes, Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis and his wife Patricia Minnis were among the first 100 Bahamians to receive the first dose of COVID-19 vaccine today. Proud healthcare workers showed off their new stickers proclaiming, "I got the COVID-19 vaccine." Addressing the media after his 15-minute observation period, the Prime Minister said he hopes to see a return to some normalcy by summer.
What I am looking forward to is for us receiving the remainder of the vaccines so that our entire population can be rolled out as quickly as possible. I would like to see our entire populace back to normal May, June, so that we can commence whatever things we've done in the past.
Dr. Min is also advising Bahamians to avoid fake news about the COVID-19 vaccine, rather to take action and get inoculated as soon as possible. He says it seems more and more Bahamians are open to getting the jab.
What is amazing, as soon as individuals had heard that I and others were being vaccinated, I was amused by the amount of phone calls that I received at home. Individuals who were calling, and everywhere I stopped. I went to the supermarket this morning shopping, and people were stopping me asking when can they get the vaccine. They want the vaccine. So I think we're turning the corner now.
Health Minister Runwood Wells, who also received his first shot today, was pleased with the turnout.
It is a very favorable, positive, exceptional response to Bahamians getting vaccinated. So despite all the noise in the marketplace from those who are anti-vacciners, we can see that a lot of the Bahamian people are wanting to step forward, willing to step forward to be able to take the vaccine.
Well, a few short hours before then, a nurse and a doctor were the first in the country to receive their first shot.
Are you ready?
Ready.
Okay, so here we go. So I am injection. That should stick. Okay. That's your injection.
I'm fine, and she's a very good sticker. So if you all want to book her, you feel free to do so. I didn't have any, I hardly knew that I was stuck.
I am so excited because I'm looking at the whole country returning some sense of normalcy. And personally, I would like to be able to see my kids and grandkids and to travel to go and see them. I also want to have that assurance that when I travel or wherever I go, even if I get COVID, I'm not going to get sick. I'm going to need hospitalization.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Berthany McDermott.
All right. So, There's more on what was said yesterday. Dr. Merceline Dal-Regis, as you heard, among those receiving the vaccine yesterday, along with the health minister and the prime minister and his wife, they are to get the second shot within 4 to 12 weeks. Now, the prime minister said on Friday that instead of vaccinating 10,000 people with the current stock, 20,000 people will be given their first dose. There was some concern about this, because we got 20,000 doses, would that mean only 10,000 people would get it, so they get their first shot and their second shot? But he says they're going to try to do 20,000 with that first dose. He noted the Bahamas has an additional 33,600 doses on the way. When asked yesterday about any potential delays in receiving those additional doses, Dal-Regis said, quote, "We are really fortunate that the AstraZeneca vaccine, the second dose, is within 12 weeks. There is a commitment you prepay for vaccines that are due to arrive before the end of March. However, if we look at the end of March and we do not, that shipment is not here, we will then have to hold vaccines until we receive that shipment to be sure that we have the second dose for the vaccine. That's how we intend to proceed." All right, so what do you make of it? The Prime Minister and many others receiving their first dose yesterday. Does that instill more confidence in you now? Are you prepared to get the vaccine now, seeing that? Does this change your mindset on anything? Let's hear from you. Give us a call. 323-6232, 323-6232, 325-4316, 325-4316, 325-4259, 325-4259. Again, you can tweet us, Facebook us, text us, 422-4796. And again, standard text rates apply. Let's hear what you have to say about this. Let's go to the phone lines. Good morning, caller. You are on the air. Good morning.
Mr. Strachan, good morning. How are you doing, sir?
Hi, good morning.
You and your guest. Everything all right with you?
Everything's good. You're going to talk about the vaccine, the Prime Minister getting the vaccine?
Yeah, Mr. Strachan, yeah, and yeah. But it's me, first of all, right? I always about in the public eye say not where I send people to speak. You know people saying about this vaccine, right? Listening?
Are these going to be people who know what they're talking about?
No. People who the Prime Minister want to take the vaccine, okay? Members, no. High class people don't count, It's the majority, So the people who are high class, they don't really count, You know who really count? It's the massive, True or false?
Everybody counts.
No, because you asked me just now, the people who really count. So
No. People who know what they're talking about.
Yeah, but this morning, I ain't going to argue with you this morning. But it's me. People are saying, why should I take this vaccine if I ain't sick? Why ain't dropping now?
That doesn't make any sense. That makes who's saying that? What type of person would say that? You take something so you don't get sick.
People who work in KFC, people who work in Wendy's, people who work in Darby.
Well, those people need to get educated. They are very, very confused about how vaccines work.
Mr. Strachan, all right then. But listen to me now. But you know what's amazing too, right? Hello?
Yeah, I'm listening.
You know what's amazing too? The Prime Minister say he can let people take it instead of two at a time, one at a time. That don't make no sense. Because the whole world know one go with two. Why you break it down? One go with two.
Well, they're hoping to have the second dose in by that time.
No, I'm just trying to say one go with two. But Mr. Strachan, another light mentioned this, right? You hear the Prime Minister and they have to call people contaminants, and you have Marvin James and Dwayne Sands and Peter Turgis who might go to jail.
Okay. Well, we're going to get to that in a bit. But
seriously speaking,
you were very offended by that, I'm sure.
Mr. Strachan, you all need to damage, on a serious note, this man trying to establish tribalism in his country. We had a man running out footage on national areas, calling Glenson and Martin, Philip Brave Davis, Chester Cooper, Picewell Forbes, and the next MP, contaminants, and he had people in his cabinet who are condemned by the court.
Well, whether he had people condemned, that's uncalled for to call people that. That is really awful. Well, okay. But yeah, that is a terrible thing, and we're going to get to that in a second, as you said. But I'm sure based on the text messages, that's all y'all want to talk about. Nobody cares about anything else. But, all right. So, folks, if you are one of those people that Dave was talking about who thinks that you're not sick and you don't need to take any vaccine, well, I really don't know if you understand how things work at all in the world. I'm sure you never had rubella either, but that's why you took vaccines so that you wouldn't get it. And yeah, not that this will stop you from getting it, apparently, but it will definitely reduce the severity of you getting it, which is a very, very good thing indeed. All right. Well, fine. Since nobody else wants to talk about anything, let's get right into it then. The Prime Minister describing PLP MPs as contaminants. Yes. Our Jasper Ward writing about this today in the National Guardian. While declaring that there needs to be a new progressive Liberal Party, Prime Minister Dr. Hubert described the 4 PLP MPs who were elected in 2017 as contaminants. What now? He said he was with a whole bunch of people campaigning through Centerville. That's a lot of red. My goodness. They're wearing masks, but not socially distant, I guess. They think they're wearing the mask. That's fine. You could be 6 inches away from people if you're wearing a mask. I don't think that's how it works, but okay. So he was in Centerville saying, quote, Centerville must stay with the FNM. The PLP has had it for a long time, but now they are with us. We have no intention of losing any of our seats. During the last election, we campaigned on corruption. We tried to wipe them all out. 4 of the contaminants escaped. No more contaminants must remain. Completely new PLP. Contaminants. Some very dangerous language there. It sounds like, reminds me of something from a long time ago. Something somebody would say in the 30s, 1930s in Europe. I could imagine that person using a word like that. You don't want to be using words like that. No. Anyway, in a statement, the PLP chairman Fred Mitchell said the Menace must have, quote, smelled his top lip. This is great stuff. This is what you want the kids to be reading in the paper. Mm-hmm. He said the Prime Minister went into Centerville, quote, talking utter nonsense by describing the 4 PLP members of Parliament as contaminants. Since he has resorted to schoolyard tactics, name-calling, and gutter political mudslinging, then he should go talk to his ma. She could tell him what a contaminant is. I don't know what that means. He went on to say, this is Mitchell, quote, here is a man, I feel like I read that wrong. Let me read it properly. Quote, since he has resorted to schoolyard tactics, name-calling, and gutter political mudslinging, then he should go talk to his ma. She could tell him what a contaminant is. Here is a man who has got to be the worst prime minister in the country's history and the political idiot savant, oh dear, of the region's prime ministers, desperately seeking to reflect from his abject failures as prime minister through trash talking. Okay, as you all know, the FNM unseated the PLP in May 2017, with then Prime Minister Perry Christie losing a seat in the House of Assembly after serving as Centerville MP for 8 consecutive terms. Christie was defeated by Reece Chipman, who won Centerville by 4 votes and then resigned from the FNM in 2019. He's currently an independent MP. On Saturday, Minute said he's confident that the FNM will win the next general election. He said, quote, I'm confident we're going to win 39 seats. That's what we're going after. We will do everything to ensure that each and every one of our candidates wins. You're going to have history soon. Never in the history of the Bahamas was the leader of the opposition defeated by a female candidate. The deputy leader defeated by a female candidate. All will be defeated. What? Okay. That's what's going to happen? Oh, well. There's a lot of sun on Saturday. Maybe that's what was going on there. He was talking heat stroke, something. Okay, Pamela Musgrove, good morning. Great to have you with us.
Good morning. Good morning, Dwight.
I don't
Good
know
morning,
what I just
Bahamas.
read. Hope you're doing well. Hope you had a great weekend.
I am doing well, thanks.
Yeah. Contaminants, and people must talk to their ma and spell the top lip.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
I think it's so unfortunate. It's so unfortunate with all that's going on in the country for a statement like this to be made.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and just from my perspective, when you have nothing to talk about, then you just start name calling. I think that's how this comes off. To me, it was unnecessary. If you are going in a constituency to campaign, the member of parliament for the constituency is a part of the FNM. Campaign on your record.
Yeah. Well,
be mature and campaign on your record. It should be easy for Centerville to see what you have done for them over these last 4 years, and you campaign on the record that you have produced. But to get in there and to start the name calling, to me, it tells me that you don't have anything to campaign on, and so you go down in the gutter.
Yes.
And then, we grow up, in growing up, my mom would say, well, if that person did it, doesn't mean that you have to do the same thing, right? This is what you try to train children. Sometimes you just have to turn the other cheek, but,
Not here.
The chairman of the PLP say, no, you will go down. What Michelle Obama say, when they go low, you go high. But the chairman of the PLP say, when you go low, I go lower.
Right. That's right.
That's
I think he had those stored in a file cabinet. Let me use this on him now.
No, man. No, they come natural.
Okay. Well, that too. Well, I mean, he wrote them initially and then had them stored. But okay.
I think it's so unfortunate. It to me, it's telling me that they have nothing to campaign on, and so that's why they are getting into gutter politics. And it doesn't have to be like that. You can argue based on ideas. You can have an argument on ideas. You don't need to have an argument by calling people names in order to try to get your point across. And we like to talk about, our young people are not socialized. But when we have the leaders of the country getting on that level, what do you expect?
Crazy stuff. That is crazy. Yep, let's get your views on it. We already heard Dave on that. But 323-6232, 325-4316, 325-4259. Tweet us, Facebook us, text us, 422-4796. What do you make of all of that just now? 323-6232, 325-4316, 325-4259. This is also interesting. The Prime Minister says at least the headline says that he plans to implement term limits for the PM. Is that like what he plans to do with his next cabinet? Is that something in the far-flung future, or is that something he's actually going to do before the election? Let's see. Expressing confidence in his chances at the second term, Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis insisted that he still has plans to legislate a term limit for Prime Minister. He said, that is unchanged. I have one more term. The election is due by May of next year. Whenever the election is called, then I have no doubt we would win. I would roll into my last and final term. Asked to clarify if he will legislate a term limit during his next term. He said, quote, I would legislate it as quickly as possible. However, I most certainly would adhere to what is being said. What does that mean? What does that mean, Eddie? Does that make what's happening? Does that make anything clearer?
Well, I think an easier law to push would be the election date, and that's being overlooked. And the members of Parliament were promised 5 years. It would be shorter if the Prime Minister called an election before the 5-year period. And I think the focus should be on working during this 5 years to improve the lives of Bahamian and then to improve our country. Yeah. Not sitting in 5 years thinking about the future, the another 5 years. That wasn't promised to you. The goal is to work now and fix the things that have been lingering that you promised. This is not something we are making up. The Prime Minister and the F&M promised to do certain things that can be easily done with their majority, but they're not doing it. But you're sitting here and you're thinking about 5 years after the election. I think crazy. It's irresponsible. I think focus now, because we have a lot of issues in this country that needs to be dealt with.
Definitely. Let's take this call. Good morning, caller. You're on the air. Well, good morning, caller.
Yes, good morning to you, Dwight. Good morning to you, Pam.
Good morning.
Good morning, Sharon Johnson. This is START. Transparency, accountability, integrity, anti-corruption, freedom of information, campaign finance reform, term limits, restore Grand Bahama, Green City, the file for Old Ban, the investigation of BPL, and you could go on and on and on. It says that a promise is a comfort to a fool when the person making the promise has the ability but not the intent, has or does not have the ability. So what we have to do is we have to ask if Dr. Minnis ever had the intent, because we know he has the ability. And so here's what he also promises, one of the most important things. He promised us that we will be able to have an economic recovery report. And we're approaching a year into this pandemic. Actually, the 20th is the next week.
Well, the first confirmed case was a year ago today.
Right. And so essentially, we have not yet get that. So here's what happens. It's a person that is totally bankrupt of ideas is seeking now to distract. In case Mr. Minister don't know, MPs are not responsible for developing the inner city or the area that he spoke about, Centerville. It's the government's responsibility. The MP is there to create good laws and policies for good governance. So yes, we have contaminated this idea, but any failure for the development of any constituency, it lies in the hands of the cabinet. Now here's what happens, is Dr. Minnis also went to that area and showed to us disgust, because he locked us down for 12 months. Now he's running around saying you can come together in groups as long as you social distance and sanitize and wear your mask. Isn't that what we've been saying for almost a year, trying to come out of this lockdown? Is the rules only applies to him whenever he wants it, and we must do whatever he says, and he says this is all based on science? And so the question that we have to begin to ask ourselves, and again, he's coming with the vaccine. Here it is, right? He has one more year to go. He's lying to us. So here's why he's lying to us. He's seeking, the word lie is to intentionally mislead or deceive. And we ask him over and over again through the reporters, will you call an early election? And he keeps saying, no, it's due for 2022, but he's taking all action except for governing and correcting this economy, bringing us a plan of action. He's not being honest and truthful. And so essentially we have to ask ourselves, does this man who started out as an illegitimate prime minister, and you may ask how is that, because remember the disclosure that you're supposed to make a disclosure, go back and check the record that he did not make the proper disclosure, making him disqualified to sit in the position of prime minister. Then he came back and said, well, the company and I are not the same. See, these are things that show us that this man is unqualified and incapable of the leadership position we put him in, and we should not even consider for a moment an opportunity to vote him out and any one of his body in his conclave or party that supports him. This man is seeking to destroy this country by virtue of his ineptitude, incapability, and incompetence. And the problem is he doesn't know that he don't know.
Wow. All right. Thank you very much. That's some strong words there. Let's take this call, and then we'll read your text messages. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Strong, how you doing?
Doing well.
Palm, how are you?
Good morning. Good morning.
Good. Mr. Strong, let me say, Dr. Minnis, let me start. He said that when his next 5 years, right, more women going to be in his cabinet. Okay. He had the majority of the seats. Why, if you had good intentions, or you had any intentions at all, or you really wanted women to be a part of your cabinet, you had a chance to do it. Term limits, had a chance to do it. There's so many things Dr. Minnis repeat now, like Alan said just now. Making promises can't be a comfort to a fool. But I ain't getting out of the way down that road. Dr. Minnis is a man. Mr. Strong, I want to be very careful this morning. Do you be surprised when he open his mouth?
Sometimes.
To say things?
Yep, sometimes, yeah. Well, all of them. Everybody.
No, not all of them. Let's be honest, Dr. Minnis. Because I'm so glad Dr. Minnis don't have much speaking engagement abroad. Because Dr. Minnis will say some things sometimes, man. When he makes sense, he don't cross your head. He don't get your attention. The minute he opens his mouth and say some things, sometimes you really got to turn around and say, wow, that's the prime minister talking that kind of foolishness. But Daddy used to say to us, don't let your mouth run away and leave your brains behind. But sometimes Dr. Minnis really, really, and I don't dislike him. I don't know him personally. But sometimes Dr. Minnis say some things really, it cause you had to shake your head. And for 5 more years, oh, Jesus, Lord, no, man. He got to be able to do better than that. I'll vote for you and Palm to be deputy and prime minister first.
Why would you say like that? I mean, I'm sure we do
I
very
don't think
well.
we took that as a compliment.
Oh, yeah? I don't know. That sounded like a
we did not take that as a compliment.
That sounded like a diss.
Dwight.
That was not a compliment.
Dwight, I told somebody last week, I said, one thing when Dwight say things sound like he defending the FNM, I told somebody, Dwight's trying to talk foolishness. So I said, Dwight probably had a nice weekend, and it was a Monday you said that. No, Dwight, you don't run on. No. I know that's really a compliment. You and with Palm on your side, and you know every time Palm open her mouth, she has some kind of ideas. No. So, yes, I would go with you and Palm.
Well, thank you very much.
Yes, man.
Okay, we'll use that for our campaign commercials.
Yes,
Appreciate that.
And Dwight, the people that document side with him, when you go in these areas, don't carry other people behind you in the area and say, oh, I got a lot of people behind me. Look at the people from the area behind me. The majority, some of those people, I don't know if you recognize some of those people on TV. Some of those people don't even live in Centerville. They're not from Centerville. So, you know, but...
Oh, boy.
Anyway, let's watch it. For 5 more years, you can win 39 seats. Wow, boy, be smart, eh?
That's going to be very special.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. All right, let's read these messages very quickly. Somebody says here, so say what? How did Dr. Menes describe most PLPs and their trolls? Well, I don't know if that's what he was doing. But contaminants? No, man, not all are like that. Not like the, okay, then name off some people. All right. This one says here, the Prime Minister was dead wrong for calling the 4 PLP MPs contaminants. But who is Fred Mitchell to talk? He takes pleasure in calling people dumb, stupid, and all kinds of nasty names. Well, this one says here, the Prime Minister said his party will win the 39 seats before or after he took the vaccine. Oh, boy. Shockingly before. Before. Maybe he won't say such things now. Maybe.
Baby,
Oh.
special. We are special people.
Wow. Okay. All right. This person is a very bad spin doctor. This person is giving the definition of the word containments. Containments, the action of keeping something harmful under control or within limits. Well, that's not what he said. He said contaminants. Contaminants. So, and they go on to say, why you always insist on blowing things out of proportion? The PLP is harmful to the country. He said contaminants, not containments. So let's not try that. But anyway, another one here. When we were in junior high school in the late 80s, a friend of this is going to be bad. Let me read this before I read this on here. What? Okay, no. I disagree with Pam. This administration has a lot to campaign on. Free tertiary education. She didn't say they didn't. She said they should have. They should have campaigned. And don't go in there and call people names. Talk about all the wonderful things you've done.
But specifically, you're in Centerville. So what was done in Centerville? I know there was talk prior to the election about running water, getting running water through some of the inner cities. You know, how far are we with that?
Right.
Have we even done a
Removing all
plan?
these outdoor toilets.
Yes. Do we even have a plan? If it's not close to being executed, do we have a plan on how we will go about doing it? So that if you win your next 5 years, you can begin to implement.
Right. Another text here. Dwight, these people saying promises comfort to a fool when they're actually voting for the candidates based on the promise from the candidates or party. They don't believe their own words. Well, it's hard to say. They might be voting for something else, but yep, sometimes you're stuck. That's all you have. That's all the only options you have.
If you promise me something for the first time and I don't know, I may believe you. First time, shame on you. Second time, shame on me. But if you promise me something and you did not deliver and you come back and promise that again, then that's the comfort to the fool.
Yeah. Let's squeeze this in very quickly. We've got to go to the break. Good morning, caller on the air.
So, Strachan, let's stop and say hi to Pam, okay?
Oh, okay.
Pam.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Tell you the truth, your commentary this morning was very nice. When you said, campaign on your record, right or wrong. Why are you going in Centerville in a Blackbird area trying to incite riot?
Is that what that was?
Right?
Okay.
It's nice because that I'm saying something that you like, Dave. But the other times...
Everything you say makes sense, but sometimes you just be a little biased, okay? So, Mr. Strachan,
Yes.
I respect for last thing, PLP is the gloves off. Marvin James is a criminal.
Oh, my goodness gracious. Okay, Dave. See, this is the same thing right there. He's going to be respectful to whom? Oh, my Lord. Okay. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we are looking back at the year that was. Former Health Minister Dr. Dwayne Sands will be our guest for this first part of the show. as we mark 1 year since we've been dealing with COVID-19 here in the Bahamas. This is Morning Blend on Guardian Radio 96.9.
No one can hurt you. Don't wanna lie here, but you can learn to.
Time for your first look at traffic for this morning, brought to you by RBC Royal Bank. In your real-time traffic, we are seeing the traffic building on Sir Miles Butler Highway. That's northbound lanes heading towards Tawny Williams Darling Highway, and also on Gladstone Road northbound towards JFK Drive. Those are two of your hot spots this morning. Elsewhere, not looking so bad as yet. We've got Prince Charles Drive and Foxhill Road, the intersection there, seeing some building traffic at the light there, but elsewhere, nothing much to talk about so far, but that will definitely be different. That will change within an hour. We'll have another report for you just after the news. Stay tuned for that, but that's your RBC Royal Bank traffic report for this morning. Time for another check of your weather for today. We've got high pressure ridging across the area, and that's going to dominate the weather pattern across the country. Beachgoers should exercise caution along East Coast beaches due to the slight risk of rip currents. For all areas today, look for partly sunny and warm conditions with a few stray showers, turning mostly fair tonight. Temperature-wise, we're looking at highs getting up to around 81 Fahrenheit, 27 Celsius. Overnight lows tonight getting down to about 70 Fahrenheit, 21 Celsius. In your extended outlook, high-pressure ridging will maintain stable weather conditions across the country. So for tomorrow, Tuesday, we're expecting partly cloudy, warm, and breezy conditions with a chance of a few light passing showers. Wednesday, variably cloudy and warm with a stray shower or two possible. Warm conditions for the week until a mild cold front moves through for the weekend. That's your Morning Blend weather check brought to you by Rev. Basketball fans, sign up or upgrade to Rev Trio and enjoy an NBA League Pass absolutely free. Call 601-8992 or email trio@cablebahamas.com to sign up. Rev, you and us together.
Get ready! The real March Madness is here! Up to 100% off store-wide at Alive! That's right! Devices, earbuds, tablets, and so much more with crazy slashed prices. Pay close attention to our social media pages. Visit any Alive location or visit bealive.com for the best deals on some of your favorite devices and accessories. That's March Madness going on now at Alive. Believe in best.
Basketball is back, baby, and so is NBA League Pass, only with Rev Trio. Sign up for Rev Trio today and enjoy NBA League Pass absolutely free, along with incredible prizes including a brand new 50-inch smart TV, NBA gear, and more. With tons of prizes and gear, signing up for Trio is the best on- and off-court move this year. Just call 601-8992 or visit www.rev.bs/promotions/trio. Sign up for Rev Trio today and enjoy NBA League Pass absolutely free.
Meet Jackie. Jackie's a hard worker with a steady income, but she has a personal loan and multiple credit cards to pay off. To keep her account current, Jackie opted for a loan from Fidelity Bank to consolidate her debt into one monthly payment and earn interest on a built-in savings account. Be like Jackie. Call 356-7764 to book a complimentary financial coaching session. Fidelity also offers virtual assistance. Fidelity, we're good for you.
Stay a step ahead of technology with certainty and support from Custom Computers. Our know-how team is here to help you zero in on your next big tech purchase, finding solutions that take your productivity to the next level using only the best and most reliable brands. With 4 stores all across Nassau on East Bay, West Bay, Old Fort Bay, and Palmdale, there's no stopping you from stepping up your tech. Reach out to us at 396-1100. Find trust in your tech. Count on Custom Computers.
TF Express Delivery, the Uber for items, packages, and documents.
It's the Bahamas' most efficient domestic delivery service.
We pick up and deliver for businesses and individuals, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., anywhere in Nassau. TF Express Delivery, the Uber for items, packages, and documents. Call 815-4628 or visit tfxdelivery.com.
This is Guardian Radio, your station for up-to-the-minute news, intelligent, interactive, and engaging conversation. 96.9 FM.
I had a dream. I got it.
We are back here with Morning Blend on Guardian Radio 96.9. Dwight Strachan along with Pamela Musgrove. And it has been 1 year today, since the Bahamas recorded its first confirmed COVID case. And the year has been unbelievable, to say the least. And we're going to be looking back at the year that was all morning long here on the show. Joining us is the former Minister of Health and the MP for Elizabeth, Dr. Dwayne Sands. Good morning, sir. Great to have you with us. Dr. Sands, good morning. Can you hear us? Yep, we got him? No, okay. Well, we're going to get that sorted out there. Okay, I think we have him. Dr. Sands, yes? Good morning. Are you there? Good morning, sir. Is his mic muted? Nope. Okay. Zoom. This is what we've been dealing with all year long as well, Pam. It's Zoom meetings, Zoom calls, people we haven't seen in a whole year.
I mean, a lot of us didn't know.
Didn't even know what that was, right?
Zoom was,
And
you
look
know?
where we are
Yeah.
now.
I'm here.
There we go. There we go. Great to have you with us all as well.
Thank you. This is a serious issue because I thought I had checked the Zoom system and was ready to go. So.
That's how it's been all year long. But let's talk about this. Take us back a year ago and where we were. I know you were with us from the very beginning on this and guiding us through it. But of course, this was uncharted territory for everybody, and we just didn't know what to expect. Has this year been what you could have imagined at all? What did you think we were going to see a year ago here in this country and here in the world?
Never in my wildest imagination did I think, looking back in January and February of 2020, that we would have experienced what we subsequently experienced. And to imagine that we would have 120 plus million people infected around the world, that's confirmed, and almost 3 million people dead. To have 9,000 or so cases in the Bahamas, I never, ever imagined. As a matter of fact, we first thought that this was something isolated to China, to Wuhan.
Mm-hmm.
And many of the initial responses were reflective of a false sense of security that this was going to be okay. And now, life as we know it has changed dramatically for everybody, everywhere.
Yeah. It's interesting that you put it like that, because people keep saying we're going to get back to normal, a sense of normalcy. But is that going to be possible at all? Are there going to be lessons that we have learned that we're going to have, things are going to have to be adjusted permanently going forward?
I think, Dwight and Pamela, that it's impossible to imagine a world where viruses like this or pandemics like this do not recur. It's COVID now, but next year, and the year after that. And so the world has to put in place a number of policies, a number of protections or protective measures to prevent similar event.
Yeah, what do you see as those? What would those be? What do you foreshadow?
I think some of the social distancing, sanitization interventions are going to be required. Vaccination is obviously important, provided you know what you're vaccinating against. And you cannot preemptively vaccinate. So what we have learned is that some of the approaches where you put huge amounts of people into tiny spaces and have them share the air, have them share an environment may turn out not to be the best way to do things. So super jumbo jets, for instance, I doubt that they're going to survive beyond this decade. Some of the, squeeze in as many people into a small space as possible. So concerts may be very different. I don't know what's going to happen to movie theaters, but we have learned that entertainment industries can survive by internet-based platforms. And so things are going to change. Exactly how they change, I'm not sure, but they certainly will be different. We have learned, you and I have learned, that you can meet pretty well over the internet with a Zoom meeting.
Right.
And it's pretty convenient.
I think to a certain extent, Dr. Sands, people are doing it a lot of times because we have to, in order to prevent the spread. But I think people can't wait. A lot of people can't wait for the opportunity to begin that physical type of, socializing. And this is just temporary in the case of meeting the way we are meeting. But I think people are looking to go back to a way, particularly that, touching, feeling, hugging, type of reaction that we meet when we see people that we love and stuff.
But I think you're saying, Dr. Sands, that even if we get over this hurdle with COVID, there's always going to be something else lurking behind it, and that our behavior has to be adjusted knowing that there could be something at any moment.
Right. So the pendulum doesn't have to swing all of the way back. So perhaps what we do is have more interaction, and only the very important things are going to be directed in person. So you will treasure the ability to spend time with your loved ones and the people with whom you're close. I think it's probably going to be a challenge for those entities that rely on mass marketing. So, if you need to fill up a stadium with 60,000 people, I don't know if that's going to work out terribly well. But yes, dinner with family. Yes, to hug and kiss a parent or a grandparent, or to have grandparents interact with their grandchildren. No problem there. But some of the things that we have been used to, I think we're not going to be able to do anymore.
I think one of the good things too is that, like when you're doing, let's say, seminars or training, we always felt that, we wanted somebody that had a high profile or that was really good in that field, we would have to pay a lot of the cost, room and board, and to get them into the country. But now you can utilize the internet and utilize Zoom or the other platforms to have a meeting or to have a training course. I know it was done in time past, but it was done with skepticism. I think, I can't remember there was a very popular speaker. I can't remember his name right now. And he used to do these simulcast seminars where I remember I went to the hotel where they were on the screen, but there were people all around the world that were listening. But, people thought I was like a little skeptical about it because, why would I go and listen to someone on the screen and I don't have that person in person on the platform talking to me? But I think that may be, more acceptable with persons. You want to secure persons to have talent to speak or to present. You can do that via the internet as opposed to having that physical face-to-face connection.
Let's talk more about where we were a year ago, Dr. Sands. From the outside now, unfortunately, what are you seeing as maybe some missteps that we made? Did we get ahead of this early enough? Or what's your view on it now in hindsight?
Well, there was no script. The entire world was scrambling to figure out how to deal with this. And you had experts that said, well, you need to develop herd immunity. And then you had experts that said, no, you need to lock down. Who do you believe? There were the economic hawks, and you had the health gurus, and they were oftentimes in opposition in terms of recommendations. And so for anyone leading the charge, you had to listen to a lot of divergent recommendations and make a decision. And sometimes you got it really good, and sometimes not so well. And I think that has basically been the experience of just about every country around the world. So early on, we locked down, we implemented curfews, we did a lot of things to reduce spread. We were a little bit late, I believe, in terms of mask implementation, but still earlier than most countries in the world. I think we would have made a recommendation for adoption of masks in February of 2020. When we opened up for travel, I think that resulted in a significant surge, and that second wave was a painful experience for the Bahamas when we saw sometimes 50, 60, 70, 80, 100 cases in a day. And when we had hospital facilities overrun and where we accrued many, many deaths. That was a horrible period that I think none of us ever want to get back to. And now we're trying to figure out how do you calibrate, move a little bit to the left, move a little bit to the right, allow some freedoms, restrict some freedoms. It's as the variables change and you get a signal of a variant here and an increase in cases there, it's a constant recalibration. And I don't think you can ever get it perfect. All you can do is get it pretty good. Right now, if you had asked me a few days ago, I would have said it was pretty good. But when you see 22 cases, 27 cases, as we did yesterday.
27.
You have to be worried, is this going to be a trend, or is tomorrow going to be 5 or 2 cases? And so all of a sudden the sirens start to go off, and you say, boy, maybe we ought to make some changes so that we don't start this downward spiral all over again. And then, of course, there's the promise of vaccination, which, as much as it is a wonderful thing, is going to take some time to have a real impact on any community, because you're going to need to vaccinate a lot of people before you start to see the positive impact from that vaccination campaign.
Mask was a new concept for the Western world, because when it first started, you had the CDC, the World Health Organization saying masks don't help. It makes no sense to wear it. And then all of a sudden, they came back, they changed, and then mask has been a concept that they were encouraging persons, I guess, they compare it to being vaccinated. Do you think that is going to be something that will continue even after we get over this, with persons who, when they are sick, being told to wear masks?
I think that the culture of mask wearing has settled into the Bahamas. And so there will be people who, and I'll use a good Bahamian word, irregardless, they are going to either wear masks themselves or put masks on their loved ones. Now, there'll be some people who won't. But the same way that mask wearing has become fairly commonplace in Asia and other parts of the world, I think that some Bahamians will find comfort in wearing masks. We would have implemented our recommendation for mask wearing in spite of the WHO position. And that was fairly typical of the Bahamas' response to COVID in the early days, or novel coronavirus. We would have implemented a travel restriction in spite of the WHO recommendation. We would have recommended mask wearing in spite of. And so the way forward, I think every sovereign country is going to have to make decisions, not necessarily in lockstep with what the World Health Organization is saying, but in a manner that they believe is most appropriate for their country and the needs of their people.
Now, you've been, I don't know if this is the right way to put it, back and forth on where we are in terms of lockdowns or curfews, and where do you stand on that point now? The curfew, should that remain?
My position has been that we should have an ongoing engagement of not just the competent authority, but the whole of government, the whole of civil society, because this impacts us all, particularly as we are now 1 year beyond the first case. And I stand by that position. This is no longer an acute problem. This is a chronic issue now. And there are some people that are falling through the gaps. There are some people who have been devastated economically. And I don't believe that we have necessarily addressed their concerns as well as we could. Which is not to say that we have not in the net done a reasonable job in our approach to COVID. We have. But can we do it better? And how do we move forward now? Do the lockdowns continue? Are they beneficial? Do the lockdowns make sense in every community? What do you do with holidays and so on and so forth? And I think it's very important that we adopt an approach that incorporates the opinions and the views of as many stakeholders as possible, because we are literally all in this together.
In terms of the way forward, when this initially started, it was about flattening the curve. So when the cases were increasing, we had to flatten the curve. And as the curve was flattened, we pulled back on the restrictions. And then the next step was the vaccine. So in taking the vaccine, at what point, what percentage of our population will have to be vaccinated in order for us to get the herd immunity? And at what point do you feel on the vaccination path, we will be able to begin to reduce or pull back on a lot of the restrictions?
So that's an excellent question. And we only have theoretical understanding about that. If you look at the experience in Israel and other high performers relative to vaccination, they would have made it to 50% or more. And already they're starting to see a reduction in those subsets of the population that have been vaccinated. That's elderly persons and so on. And so I would say that as many as we can get as quickly as possible for the Bahamas, let's get it done. Bearing in mind that we have a significant hurdle in order to get Bahamians to agree to support vaccination. And part of that is due to misinformation and disinformation. And part of it is due to the fact that there are gaps in our understanding that lead to fear.
Yeah. Want to talk a little more about that. If you can stick around with us for just a bit, we're going to take a break and then be back. We're talking with Dr. Dwayne Sands. This is Morning Blend on Guardian Radio 96.9. 1 year since COVID-19 was confirmed in the Bahamas. Stay with us.
This is Guardian Radio 96.9 FM, Nassau, Bahamas.
Welcome back to Morning Blend here on Guardian Radio 96.9. We are streaming live on GuardianTalkRadio.com and on the Guardian Radio app for smart devices. We're also on your televisions on Cable Bahamas Channel 969 and BTC Flow Channel 612. Tweet us at Morning Blend 969 and Facebook.com/Morning Blend 969. Text us 422-4796. And now at 8:20, it is time for another check of your weather for today, brought to you by Bahamas First Insurance. Here's what's happening. We've got high pressure dominating the weather across the country today and for the next few days. But beachgoers are still being advised to exercise caution along East Coast beaches due to a slight risk of rip currents today. Your forecast for today for all areas: partly sunny and warm with a few stray showers, mostly fair tonight. Temperature-wise, it is about 68, 69 degrees right now in Nassau. Look for highs getting up to around 81 Fahrenheit, 27 Celsius. Overnight lows tonight getting down to about 70 Fahrenheit, 21 Celsius. In your extended outlook, high pressure region will maintain these stable conditions we've been seeing over the past few days for the next few days. So for tomorrow, Tuesday, look for partly cloudy, warm and breezy conditions with a chance of a few light passing showers. Wednesday, variably cloudy and warm with a stray shower or two. That's your Morning Blend weather check, brought to you by Bahamas First Insurance. What's first for you comes first for us. And at 8:22, time for another check of your traffic for this morning, brought to you by RBC Royal Bank. As expected, we're seeing some heavy traffic conditions out there this morning. Blue Hill Road, a hot spot for you today, from just north of St. Vincent Road, especially north of Carmichael. And as expected, north of Soldier Road, the northbound lanes heading there towards Independence Drive. Heavy traffic as you get over that hill there. Independence Drive backed up on both directions, west and eastbound lanes, so keep that in mind. You might want to avoid that area if you can. Tonic Williams-Darling Highway, heavy traffic westbound heading towards that roundabout with Sir Milo Highway, and Sir Milo Highway, heavy traffic from Fire Trail northbound all the way up to Tonic Williams-Darling Highway. Gladstone Road also busy this morning, northbound lanes heading towards JFK Drive. Carmichael westbound also seeing heavy traffic heading towards Coral Harbor Road. Elsewhere, we've got Eastern Road westbound and Bernard Road westbound seeing some heavy traffic, and Prince Charles Drive and Fox Hill Road. Near that intersection, you're going to be seeing some congestion there. And Prince Charles and Beatrice Avenue and Robinson Road between Soldier and Old Trail. Heavy westbound traffic there. Those are your hottest spots this morning, your real-time traffic, and your Morning Blend traffic alert brought to you by RBC Royal Bank.
Your home is where your heart is, but it's more than just shelter. Your home is your workplace. Your home is school for your kids. Your home is even your happy place where you play. Get the best internet connection wherever you are with blazing fast speeds up to 300 megabits per second for as low as $99.99 and installation within 48 hours. Sign up for any of our fiber packages today and get a chance to win a free tablet in your second month. Call or WhatsApp 577-SHOP or 424-SHOP and sign up today. Conditions apply.
Looking for plenty food and you're on a budget?
Wait, I'm break.
Stop into Wendy's and grab our latest bundle. Introducing the Biggie Bag. With the new Biggie Bag, you get a Dave single, junior fries, regular drink, and 4-piece nuggets for only $7.25, VAT inclusive. Add an apple pie for just $1 more. Now that's a deal. It's the best on these streets. Available at all locations. Restrictions apply. Wendy's, different inside and out.
RBC and Visa bring you a benefit as you to enjoy Disney Plus. Get 2 months of the all-new Disney Plus streaming subscription on us if you have an RBC Visa Platinum card. Learn more by visiting www.rbc.com/Caribbean/Disney. Reimagine new ways to bank better.
This is Guardian Radio 96.9 FM, Nassau, Bahamas.
We are back here with Morning Blend on Guardian Radio 96.9. Dwight Strachan with Pamela Musgrove. We are continuing our discussion on 1 year of COVID in the Bahamas. We're going to be talking about this all morning long on the show. We're talking with Dr. Dwayne Sands now. I only have you for a few more minutes, Dr. Sands, but we're still hearing people calling talk shows, people texting in, just saying that we are overdoing it, we are overplaying it, that this isn't that bad. Most people will have mild conditions, mild symptoms, and won't even realize they have it. Why is the whole world going to this extreme over this thing that will, for most people, just be a minor incident? What do you say to people who still talk like that after what we've seen in the last year?
When you look at the numbers, it is obvious that the impact has been massive. But there have been so many attempts to modify the approach to looking at COVID, and a lot of it was political. And I'm talking big P, international P. If you look at the last U.S. election, arguably it was fought over COVID and whether COVID was real or not. And with the penetration of information through social media, etc., some of these themes, some of these thoughts have stuck. And so what we have to do is to acknowledge that people have been fed a huge amount of disinformation and misinformation, and we have to walk them through it. All of the specters of Tuskegee and the past have been exhumed. And so now people are worried that perhaps COVID is a way to sterilize black and brown people or to kill off black and brown people. You've heard about the New World Order and this and that. And all of the conspiracy theories are crazy, but people believe a little of it or some of it. And so we have to walk them through it, disabuse them of the fallacies that have been put out there, and try to get them to understand that there's a lot of smart people that are trying to save lives out there. And not all of them would be into some international plot to kill. They don't always get it right. And they are working feverishly against the clock to try literally to save mankind. And I think that, as long as you know that the efforts are genuine, they're real, and we're going to share with you where there are things that we don't know or that we didn't get right, but for the most part, we're going to fix this. Mm-hmm. And that, I think, is the message moving forward for COVID and vaccination. And I think people should go and get vaccinated.
Mm-hmm. So for those who do get vaccinated, will they have to be vaccinated again? And if they do, how serious would it be for them to get vaccinated again?
So it takes, it's not so hard for me to say, I don't know. I can hazard a guess and say that you will probably need a booster shot for variants, and you will probably need a booster shot later on just because coronavirus may turn out to be like influenza virus, that things change over time. So we don't know the answer to that question. What we do know is that if we have the ability to convert COVID-19 from a disease that kills to a disease that only causes you to stay home from work for a day or two, that's a good deal.
Okay. But then you can see why some people may be concerned that in an honest fashion, you do not know the answer to that question. And so some people may be concerned about that.
Well, yes, some people will be concerned, but I put it to you that honesty is the best policy here.
I agree.
An informed consent that says, look, we don't know. We don't know, exactly what's going to happen, but we believe that this is the right path to travel. And when you have literally tens of thousands of ethical persons who don't have a political bone in their body, that aren't going to be making money from selling vaccines, that aren't trying to sell a platform on Instagram or TikTok or whatever, that they genuinely want to make a difference, that resonates. And eventually, I think more and more people will say, okay, I trust this, and I will go ahead and get this done. Okay. But you will hear every single day some crazy story about how George Soros and Bill Gates trying to inject particles into people and so on, and that is absolute rubbish.
Dr. Dwayne Sands, thank you so much for talking with us this morning. We appreciate it. We appreciate what you've done for us, especially in the beginning there. And we thank you again.
Thank you for the privilege. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
All right. We're going to take a break. When we come back, more on this 1 year of COVID in the Bahamas, more on where we stand at this point and what you need to know about the vaccine and what we know about the disease of the virus now compared to where we were a year ago, and what that's going to mean for going forward. We're going to be talking with Dr. Nakia Forbes after the break. This is Morning Blend on Guardian Radio 96.9.
Seasons of
You invest in your children, your home, and your community. But are you investing in your financial future? At CFAL, we specialize in investment management, retirement planning, mutual funds, and private wealth management. Our team of experts never stops helping you plan for tomorrow. Because tomorrow begins today. Call us at 502-7010 to see what our financial advisors can do for you. CFAL, growing wealth for future generations.
Your home is where your heart is, but it's more than just shelter. Your home is your workplace. Your home is school for your kids. Your home is even your happy place where you play. Get the best internet connection wherever you are, with blazing fast speeds up to 300 megabits per second for as low as $99.99. And installation within 48 hours. Sign up for any of our fiber packages today and get a chance to win a free tablet in your second month. Call or WhatsApp 577-SHOP or 424-SHOP and sign up today. Conditions apply.
Screws and Fasteners World, Balfour Avenue and Palm Beach Street, has those hard-to-find fasteners for you right now. You can find stainless steel regular hex, carriage bolts, galvanized bolts, threaded rods, nails, self-tap screws, sex bolts, anchor bolts, turnbuckles, masonry tools, hand tools, and weed whacker strings. Check out the rope selection and car body fasteners too. Special orders are welcome. It's your #1 fastener store. Screws and Fasteners World, Balfour Avenue and Palm Beach Streets. Call 326-1976.
This is Guardian Radio 96.9 FM, Nassau, Bahamas.
525,600 minutes. 525,000 moments so dear. 525,600 minutes. How do you measure a year? In daylights, in sunsets, in midnights, in cups of coffee, in inches, in miles, in laughter and strife, in 525 25,600 minutes. How do you measure a year in the life? How about
We're back here with Morning Blend on Guardian Radio 96.9. Dwight Strong along with Pamela Musgrove. It has been 1 year since COVID-19 was confirmed here in the Bahamas, and this week will mark 1 year since our lives have been changed, probably forever, with how we've done things and what we've seen over these past 12 months, things that we never thought we would ever see.
I think it was on a Sunday, right? It was on a Sunday because I remember there was rumors about, was it the first case on a Sunday?
I don't remember if it was a Sunday, but I remember it's been a year, and it's just been.
Or maybe, I know the lockdown started.
Lockdown started by the weekend, I think.
So that was like on the 16th, I think I remember, when we started.
Yeah, there was over the course of the next few days,
Thursday,
quite a few things would have changed, and we were going to hear about all the unusual things that we're going to see, measures to fight this.
Yeah.
But for more on where we are now and what we may see in the future, we're very pleased to welcome back to the show the Director of Infectious Disease, the Infectious Disease Program with the Ministry of Health, Dr. Nakia Forbes. Dr. Forbes, great to have you with us again.
Good morning, Dwight. Good morning, Pamela.
Good morning.
It's a pleasure to be here with you.
Yes, 1 whole year. It's been both the longest year and the shortest year that we've ever had. I don't know how that's possible, but here we are. Boy. All right, so we are seeing some interesting things happening, of course, with the vaccine now, but still so many questions about COVID and how the vaccine is going to work with that. I hope you can answer some of these. So one of the first ones is whether, if you've been infected with COVID, you need to be taking the vaccine.
Yes, if you have been infected with SARS-CoV-2, which is the virus that causes COVID-19, you do still need to get the vaccine. We know that because COVID-19 viruses mutate, and this virus mutates as well. And so one can be reinfected. And so certainly getting a vaccine is a wise idea.
Mm-hmm. And if you are showing any symptoms, will that make a difference? If you should you take the vaccine then? Is that not recommended? When is the best time to take the vaccine?
One would not get the vaccine when one is having symptoms of COVID or has acute COVID. So it can be taken anywhere after recovery, within a month after recovery. Mm-hmm. But persons who do get COVID-19, they will have some immunity for a variable period of time. It probably depends on person to person. It could be 6 months, it could be a year or longer. And so there is some time that's allowed between having acute COVID and getting the vaccine. You could wait a couple of months to do that.
Mm-hmm. I noticed in the papers that Regis is saying that if they don't get the remaining doses of the vaccine, I think the extra 33,000 plus, by the end of the month, they will halt the vaccine rollout with the 20,000. But then they also said that they will vaccinate 20,000 persons as opposed to the 10. I know the UK did that strategy as well, but the vaccine was continuously, they had continuous supply of the vaccine. So do you think it's wise to probably go for the 20,000 because we are uncertain if we would get the other doses in time, and just go with the 10,000 vaccinated, and then over the next 4 to 12 weeks, vaccinate those persons with the second dose?
Yes, because there's newer information from since that vaccine has rolled out. So the interval, it's a 2-dose vaccine schedule for this particular vaccine. Mm-hmm. And the recommended time between doses in clinical trials was about, let's call it 4 weeks. But there's newer information now, both from the vaccine manufacturer and the World Health Organization, that this vaccine the second dose could be given 12 weeks after the first dose. and that could be good for the immune system. And so all countries would have to plan for that. But it's a good opportunity to vaccinate as many persons as possible in the first tranche, and then allow for 3 months for another stock of vaccines. It gives you some time, a time frame that should allow you to be able to acquire the second vaccine dose. And there is some immunity after getting the first dose, so there's also a scientific reason. One wouldn't be fully immunized until one has received the 2 doses, but there will be some immune benefit after getting the first dose. But we still want people to follow the public health precautions after getting that first dose.
Now, I'm sure you've heard it. A lot of people, not just here, but throughout the world, concerned about the AstraZeneca vaccine and how this compares to others like Pfizer or Moderna or Johnson & Johnson. Let's talk about that, the differences, and whether the fears that people have, the concerns that people have, are warranted at all.
Well, let me say something in general about these vaccines to start off. So there are various vaccines that are being rolled out worldwide. And we've heard the names of these vaccines. That is the Pfizer vaccine, the Moderna vaccine, the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, Novavax. There are others. And they all had their own clinical trials. And at the end of a clinical trial, what you have to do is report on your findings. And so that we see that efficacy varied, but keep in mind that the countries that these trials were rolled out in were different at different times with different strains. But there is one important thing that people should know, which is that these vaccines across the board do reduce the chance of people getting SARS-CoV-2, the virus that causes COVID-19, and the chance of getting COVID-19. And significantly, of persons that got the vaccines, they did not have severe COVID-19, meaning that they didn't have to be hospitalized, short of breath, needing oxygen or respiratory or ventilatory support and die. And that is what the goal is. So there was a predetermined yardstick, for lack of a better term, on what would be accepted as efficacy. And all of these vaccines have done so. Now, in the clinical trials, side effects are reported, adverse effects are reported. Most people will not get adverse effects, and the common side effects are mild to moderate, and across the board, they are pain in the arm, fever, chills, tiredness, muscle aches, and headaches. And in some cases, there could be severe allergic reactions for people who have allergies to the vaccine components. And so that is where these practice recommendations come from with these vaccines and why they have been having authorization for use. And so that's very important to know.
All right, so are there key differences, and what are the key differences between the vaccines and the ones that we're getting and the other ones that are out there? And what would you say to folks who are holding out to get the one that they want, the one they think they want, that may be different from the one that we're getting?
So these vaccines use different platforms. Some of them are mRNA vaccines that go into the cell and will teach the cell to make spike protein, the COVID-19 spike protein, and then the immune system will react. That's the Pfizer and the Moderna vaccine. Some of these vaccines use recombinant protein, like Novavax. The AstraZeneca vaccine is a viral vector vaccine. It's a perfectly harmless virus, doesn't cause disease in people and humans, and it carries the information to make the spike protein of COVID-19 so that one can get immune. And so those are key differences. But at the end of the day, that's very scientific language. At the end of the day, vaccines all do the same thing. They teach the immune system to mount an immune response without having to actually go through the actual disease. and the fallout of the actual disease, being very, very sick or dying or having long-term consequences. There are some other things that are different. The doses could be different. Some of these are 2-dose vaccines. The Johnson & Johnson vaccine is a 1-dose vaccine. The way they're stored can be different as well. Some require the ultra cold chain freezers. For example, the Pfizer vaccine would have needed to be kept at around minus 70 degrees Celsius versus others that could be kept at commercial freezer and refrigerator temperatures. And the efficacy could vary, but like I say, you have to know the context of that. That's very, very scientific. Like I said, there is a yardstick for what is a good vaccine. So when you think about it, let's go back to 1 year ago when we first heard about this virus and what the consequences were. There are key questions a scientist would have to ask that's important for the world, for humankind. Can this be vaccinated against? And if the answer is yes, if you have a vaccine, what makes a successful vaccine? Does it stop you from getting the infection? If you can get the infection, does it stop you from developing disease, getting sick? If you could have the infection and have no symptoms, that wouldn't be so bad. It wouldn't be a public health crisis if there were no long-term consequences and fallout. But if you could get the disease, would it be mild? Would it stop you from being hospitalized and being seriously sick or dying? Would this stop people from being able to spread COVID-19 to other people? Those are some key questions as it relates to how well these vaccines work. So those are questions the scientific community pre-developed, and it was determined what would be the level of efficacy to make a successful vaccine candidate. Would it stop people from getting seriously ill and having symptoms? So that's what you need to know. It's not a good idea to hold out waiting for one that you want to cherry pick, because COVID-19 is still circulating. And like I said, all of these vaccines do the same thing. They stop you from getting severely ill with COVID-19, dying, ending up in the hospital, or with long-term lung and heart damage. And so if you have the opportunity to do this, I really recommend that you get the vaccine that's available to you, because the benefit of that is going to far outweigh the risk of getting COVID-19.
So given that, Dr. Forbes, what are the top priority groups for the vaccine in the Bahamas?
That's a good question. And again, that's based on scientific information. So when one determines who gets the vaccine first, it has to be fair and equitable. And so it should be people who are most at risk of dying of getting COVID-19. And it should be people who are most at risk for getting COVID-19. For example, frontline healthcare workers who are taking care of COVID-19 patients every day, public health nurses, and people who, for example, extremes of age, medical comorbidities. This looks different in every country. For example, when we saw this roll out in the United Kingdom, the first person to get it was an octogenarian, because we know that there were people in care homes that died. Up to 50, 60, 70, 80% of people in some care homes died. And so that would be some of what informed the recommendation that it would be healthcare workers, frontline workers, and people in care homes that are institutionalized because they may have a poor outcome. So that's how you would start. And then you would progressively administer the vaccine in other waves based on priority out from there.
Okay, so given that, do we know how many persons are in that category in the Bahamas? And do we have these persons, do we have some number of these persons lined up to begin to take the vaccine that we now have in the country?
Well, we would know how many healthcare workers there are and frontline workers. And there is also public health information and Ministry of Health information on the prevalence of things like comorbidities, diabetes, hypertension, extremes of age, and the COVAX platform has been busily working for a registration process prioritization and how the vaccines will roll out.
So for anybody who, do you know this as yet? I don't know if it comes before you exactly, but for someone who might not be in these high-risk groups, who's very desperate to get the vaccine, are they going to be able to do this? What do we know so far?
I can't speak to that, not being on that aspect of planning for the
Right.
COVAX vaccine.
Okay, so do you know what percentage of hospitalization and death comprise this high-risk group in the Bahamas?
Are you speaking in general or
Yeah, but because I'm trying to understand if we have the vaccine in country. So I'm trying to understand the rollout strategy. So I think we should be having at least about 100 persons a day being vaccinated, because if we have this information in terms of those who are in high risk and we're targeting them to come out and be vaccinated, and then to see, like, for the persons who have been in hospital or who have died, like what type of illnesses they had that would put them in a high risk category.
Well, we do have data. So we are keeping a record and have been keeping a record of the COVID-19 deaths. And so far, there have been 186 that have been reported in total related to COVID-19. And so we did have information about what the medical comorbidities were for these persons. And the majority of them had at least one medical comorbidity. And I can state from working with the COVAX Service Committee that there is a plan for a certain number of vaccinations per day, but I don't have that precise number. But I know we will be hearing about that soon.
All right. I want to ask one more question about the vaccines. So do we know, I know we asked this a few months back, but we're learning new things every week, it seems. Do we know, are the tests being done on the people who are getting different types of vaccines? If I were to get an AstraZeneca vaccine, but later get a Johnson & Johnson, do we know whether that will be something that could cause a problem, or do we have any understanding of those type scenarios as yet?
That's a great question. So what's recommended is that one should get the vaccine based upon the manufacturer's recommendation, given the dosing schedule. So if you've started with the AstraZeneca vaccine, the second dose should be the AstraZeneca vaccine, because that's what's been studied in terms of efficacy, and the same exists for the other vaccine companies. In the real world, though, it's already being documented that persons could miss their second dose. What do you do? And so there are recommendations, best practice recommendations for what you do in that scenario. So you should give the next dose of the same vaccine as soon as possible. However, if that's not possible, one could get a vaccine from a different drug company. Now, when we look at that, though, that hasn't been clinically studied. And so we don't really want to do that, because we couldn't really speak to the total efficacy, even though scientifically we know that you should get efficacy. There should be some immune response because of that, but it hasn't been studied.
All right. And for people who might be thinking, I'm going to be on the safe side and take this one, but also when I travel, get a totally different one, even after I already had my second dose, that too would not quite be recommended. Is that what you're saying?
Well, that hasn't been studied. So remember, we practice medicine in the era of what's called evidence-based medical practice. It's not what Dr. Forbes thinks or some other doctor, as it relates to information where we have scientific data. So it wouldn't be recommended to do such a thing.
Wow. All right, here's an interesting text here. Now the vaccinations have started, what is the percentage that we need to be at to return to normal? And do we have a timeline for that, to achieve that? What number of people would need to be vaccinated here so that we could get to that herd immunity that people talk about, that we could feel relatively comfortable that we would have this under control?
So the percentage needed for herd immunity is 60 to 70% of the population.
60 to 70%. Wow.
Yes.
So we've got a long way to go. A very long way to go.
Start somewhere.
Yeah.
I like to look at it that way.
That is true. That is true. All right, I want to ask you about this. The numbers that we're seeing today, the last few days, we know that Abaco has seen some numbers increase over the past few weeks. And the most recent dashboard from Ministry of Health stating that we've had 27 new cases, 13 in New Providence, 13 in Grand Bahama, and 1 new death. And I don't see it on this one at the moment, but I know that some of the previous dashboard numbers indicate that very few people are claiming they've been traveling recently. What do we take away from that? What does that mean about what's happening here with the new numbers that we see every day? How do you explain that? If people aren't traveling, if that's not part of it, what's your theory on what's happening here?
So there is COVID-19 in country. And the number of cases every day is the number of lab confirmed cases. There are other persons that are asymptomatic, for example. And so we know that COVID-19 is still being transmitted. The good thing is we've flattened the curve of the second wave, and this stays manageable and relatively consistently within high single digits or low double digits.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's to the point where the healthcare system can manage, and so that's very good. Now, as it relates to travel, there could be cases that are associated with travel. We know that borders are open, and the Ministry of Health does report on travel-related cases, but travel with cases with a confirmed history of travel. But there could also be travel-related cases or persons who are in contact, and then we do have clusters of spread. And so that just all goes to say that COVID-19 hasn't gone away. There's still COVID-19, and that we have to continue to follow the public health precautions and keep our guard up if we want to keep cases at this pretty low manageable number.
Okay, so given that we have flattened the curve and we have pretty good numbers in terms of infections, what will you be looking for, or the committee be looking for, as an indication that the vaccination is working?
Vaccinations will not start to work right away. So as a follow-up to the question that you asked me earlier, in terms of, well, how long will it take to get to this herd immunity? That takes time, and it's dependent on a lot of things, like having available vaccine, having uptaken vaccinations, and willingness to get the vaccine. And so that sort of is very important when we think about the herd immunity concept. But to the question that you asked, Pamela, when will we start to see this working? It's hard to say. It's going to take some time. It depends on how quickly you can get to that number. In the real world, there's a real world story about this. Israel really prioritized vaccinating their population, and they are already seeing plenty benefits in their country. But again, how quickly you get to that's very variable. And so we have to remember, what do we do? There's two ways that we can fight COVID-19 at this time: prevention and control. Prevention, very important that we continue to follow the public health guidelines. That's very important. And vaccines are another important way to prevent COVID-19. And control is another aspect, to identify cases, put them in isolation, do the contact tracing around them, and to put high-risk contacts in quarantine and follow up with testing. That's how we have to look at this.
Getting a great text here. Someone's asking if we have any word yet on the lab result, the results of the tests on the variant strains that were sent to Brazil. Have we heard back from them as yet? Do we know whether we have those other more resistant variants in the country at this time?
I haven't heard back on confirmation on those strains, but the important thing to remember is that the public health guidance following those instructions is very helpful. That prevents getting those strains too. And as we see, those strains are in our region and will be the predominant circulating strains in neighboring countries, we do have to keep our guard up.
So we're getting a lot of people calling in saying, why should I take the vaccine if I'm going to still be required to wear masks and practice social distancing even afterward? What do you say to folks who are wondering what the point of all of that?
Well, there's some practical information that can be used. So once you get the vaccine, say you got the vaccine yesterday, your full immunity won't develop until you are fully immune. And that means that'll be 14 days after getting the second dose. And do keep in mind that there are emerging variants. There's going to continue to be emerging variants until we get this COVID-19 situation under control in the world. And the thing is, some of these variants, the mutation allows them to be more infectious and more dangerous, and that it could result in some vaccines not being fully protective, even though there would be some benefit. So you could still get infected with a resistant strain. And so it's very prudent to continue to follow the other public health recommendations. Further, there are rare occurrences, or uncommon occurrences rather, where one could get a vaccine and still get COVID-19. And we are getting information and trying to find out if that means that it can be passed on. And so I like to give a good comparison, because like I had just said, this COVID-19 vaccine is just another way of preventing getting COVID. That's the aim, trying not to get COVID. It doesn't mean that you don't follow the other public health recommendations, because that's another way to get COVID. And so the analogy I always give is cars can cause serious car accidents and death. And that's why you do a series of things to keep yourself safe when you're driving a car or in a car. You put on the seatbelt, there's brakes, there's an airbag, there's side airbags, you don't speed. You try to be careful when you're driving on wet roads. It's combination prevention. And so these vaccines, they will have impact. There are already recommendations that there could be more return to normal life and gathering if you have gotten a vaccine. Those are CDC recommendations. But it doesn't mean you throw all caution to the wind. And after you get vaccinated, you go into a crowd of 5,000 people close together and not spaced together properly.
Right. All right, we're running out of time. People asking if you're going to be taking this vaccine and when you're going to be doing it. Oh, boy.
I didn't hear that.
If you're going to be taking this vaccine and when you're going to be doing it.
I got the vaccine yesterday.
You got it yesterday. All right. And how are you feeling?
I'm feeling perfectly well.
Okay. That's wonderful stuff. Wonderful stuff. All right. So 1 year later, could you have imagined that we'd be here? Did you ever think that at all?
No, nobody could foresee this. Well,
yeah.
No.
My goodness.
Definitely not.
Isn't that something? I know people were saying 3 months initially, but look at us now. Boy. But Dr. Nakia Forbes, we appreciate you so much. You have guided us through all of this. It feels like we are nearing the end of this tunnel, and we can see a little glimmer of light. Hopefully it won't be much longer. But we thank you so much for what you're doing. We appreciate you.
I appreciate you too. Always a pleasure to be here with you, and stay safe.
You as well. You as well. We're going to take a break. When we come back with Morning Blend Business, we're going to be talking with the business community about what this 12-month period has been like for them and what they see as the future moving forward. This is 1 year since COVID in the Bahamas, a special edition of Morning Blend here on Guardian Radio. Stay with us. We'll be back after the news.
Wake up, it's a new day. Wake up, it's a new day. Wake up, it's a new day. Wake up, it's a new day.
Welcome to Morning Blend Business on this Monday, March 15th, 2021. Welcome back to our Morning Blend listeners. I'm Dwight Strachan, Pam Musgrove sticking with us this morning. And as we continue our discussion on COVID-19 in the Bahamas 1 year later, 1 year since the first confirmed case since our first confirmed case in the country, and 1 year since some sweeping legislation put in place to combat the spread of COVID-19 in the country. This morning, we're going to talk with the Bahamas Chamber of Commerce about the impact this has had on the business community in the country and where we go from here. That's coming up. But first, it is time for your morning business report brought to you by CFAL. In your morning business report, the Bahamas' regressive tax structure is exacerbating inequalities in the country, according to the United Nations Common Country Analysis 2020 on the Bahamas. He points out that this country is one of only a few in the region not collecting corporate or income taxes. The UN report adds that the tax intake is one of the lowest in the region, while contending that raising that intake rate to the regional average could help the country's finance projects and that work towards satisfying the Sustainable Development Goals due in 2030. The Sustainable Development Goals, the SDG number 10, which calls for reduced inequalities, is being affected by the government's continued use of regressive tax methods, according to the UN. Those methods, under recommendation by the Economic Recovery Committee, are to be reevaluated. According to the report, while the government has made a substantial effort to increase its spending, especially through the introduction of value-added tax in 2015, it is still hesitant to levy income tax, either corporate or personal. The argument is that not levying an income tax is part of the country's development strategy, but under the current circumstances, it seems untenable to maintain that position in the long run. The report also saying that revenue increased from 12.8% of GDP in 2013 to 16.4% in 2018, a substantial increase, but still a long way off from the average for Latin America and the Caribbean, which stood at 23.9% in 2018. And it says that while the introduction of the VAT may have expanded the tax base, it did so in a highly regressive way, disadvantaging the poor and exacerbating existing inequalities. According to the UN, only a small percentage of the government's revenue is currently being used to get the country close to achieving the 2030 SDGs. The UN Common Country Analysis also saying the rate of economic growth in the country will be insufficient for the country to address the challenges that will bring it in line with the UN's SDGs. The UN report describing the country's economic growth over the past 15 years as anemic and explained that the twin crises of Hurricane Dorian and the COVID-19 pandemic will likely set the country back even further in reaching the SDGs in another 5 years. Imports to the Bahamas declined nearly 20% as the COVID-19 pandemic began to make its mark on the Bahamian economy during the first quarter of 2020. That's according to new data from the Department of Statistics. The value of merchandise trade during the first quarter of 2020 stood at $587 million, a 17% decrease from the $708.9 million recorded in 2019. Emergency lockdown measures came into effect halfway through the month of March 2020, causing businesses deemed non-essential and schools throughout the country to shutter for weeks on end. The biggest decline was in the food and live animals category, which dropped from $131.7 million in the first quarter of 2019 to $75.1 million in the first quarter last year. Read more about this in today's Guardian Business section. And IRCA, the Utilities Regulation and Competition Authority, has proposed 3 new special rate categories for BPL customers in a consultation document for a proposed tariff review framework. IRCA stating it is seeking to find the right balance between the interests of the consumers and the power company, insisting that consumers should not pay more than necessary to receive electricity service of a given standard. While BPL Chairman Dr. Donovan Moxey yesterday confirmed that BPL's not made any formal application to IRCA for any tariff rate adjustment or tariff rate increase and has not had any formal discussions with IRCA on the matter. IRCA stated that the tariff review would establish a transparent framework for future tariff adjustments and periodic reviews. Details in today's Guardian Business section. Overseas, Facebook is adding informational labels to posts about vaccines as it expands efforts to counter COVID-19 related misinformation flourishing on its platforms. CEO Mark Zuckerberg saying in a blog post today that labels will contain, quote, credible information about the vaccines from the World Health Organization. They will be in English and 5 other languages, with more languages added in coming weeks. The social network is also adding a tool to help get users vaccinated by connecting them to information about where and when they get their shot. Facebook and Instagram have been criticized for allowing anti-vaccination propaganda to spread and for being woefully slow in weeding out the misinformation, often with fact checks, labels, and other restrained measures. In your Market Watch recapping trading on the BISX from Friday, your market movers, Fidelity Bank moving 2,000 shares, closing up 2 cents to $13.95. Focall moving 151,400, down 37 cents to $3.43. Consolidated Water up 3 cents to $3.04. Emira Incorporated up 12 cents to $10.67. The BISX All-Share Index closing at 1,936.70, down 16.09. That's your Market Watch, and that is your morning business report brought to you by CFAL, growing wealth for future generations. And tune in tonight at 6:30 p.m. for CFAL Talks right here on Guardian Radio 96.9. It's time for a break. When we come back, we're talking with the Bahamas Chamber of Commerce about the impact of COVID-19 over this past 12 months. Will the business community ever return to, quote, normal after all of this? We're going to get into that when Morning Blend Business returns here on Guardian Radio 96.9.
Imagine. That's where every advancement begins, with an idea that things can be different, better, now. Imagine a world where your entertainment experience was all about you, your style, your show, at your budget. At Rev, that's what we've imagined. To join the conversation and learn more about the future of Rev TV, visit us at rev.bs/imagine.
RBC and Visa bring you a benefit as unique as you to enjoy Disney Plus. Get 2 months of the all-new Disney Plus streaming subscription on us if you have an RBC Visa Platinum card. Learn more by visiting www.rbc.com/Caribbean/Disney. Reimagine new ways to bank better.
Always on the go? Missed the show? You can now listen to Guardian Radio talk shows anytime, anywhere on Spotify and YouTube by searching Guardian Radio 96.9 FM or by entering the name of your favorite show. You can also listen by logging on to GuardianTalkRadio.com and clicking on the podcast tab. Guardian Radio, continuing to provide you with fresh news and smart talk anywhere, anytime, all day.
525,000 moments so dear. 525,600 minutes. How do you measure a year? In daylights, in sunsets, in midnights, in cups of coffee, in inches, in miles, and laughter and strife. In 525,600 minutes. How do you measure a year in the life? How about love? How about love? How about love? Measuring love. Seasons of love.
We are back with Morning Blend Business here on this Monday morning. Dwight Strachan along with Pamela Musgrove. It has been 1 year since our first confirmed case of COVID. And as we said, in 1 year, just within days, it kept coming, the information about curfews, lockdowns, the panic, the long lines. It all started 12 months of this, folks. They told us it was going to be maybe 3 months. Yeah. 3
I
months.
thought it would have been short term.
Yeah.
I thought of it as when we have the hurricanes and we at work we would implement our disaster recovery plan. So I'm thinking, okay, maybe a week or two, we'd have to go through this and look at it a year later.
My goodness. And everybody has felt the impact of this. Many people haven't worked since March of last year. Many businesses have had to shut down. Many people have lost loved ones. Many people have lost their lives. So we are talking about it all. And we've talked with the medical professionals, but let's talk now with the business community. Very pleased to have with us from the Bahamas Chamber of Commerce and Employers Confederation, Chair Crystal Ferguson and Vice Chair Timothy Ingram. Great to have you with us this morning.
Good morning, Dwight. Great to be on the show.
All right.
Thank you for having us, Dwight.
1 whole year. My goodness. Let's talk about it. Your views of how this year has gone and what has changed the most for some of the members of the Chamber of Commerce, for the business community, and what will need to be changed forever going forward. Let's get into all of that this morning.
Dwight, has certainly been a roller coaster of a year. One thing we can say for certain is that there have been many challenges associated with COVID-19. I don't think any of us on this call would have expected the challenges to present itself so much as it did. And the reality of it is we have come a long way in terms of where we went to the long lines, the restrictions, all of that, the cease operations. And we're now to a point where we've gotten to some state of normalcy. However, we still have a long ways to go. And we have to realize that there are many businesses that are still reeling from the challenges and impacts of COVID-19. Not only that, we at the Chamber, we've heard from our members and we know that revenues are lower, expenses still remain largely the same. Some staff had to be furloughed, and we've had some casualties in the business community with businesses closing. I can go on and on with regard to what we've heard from our membership and by extension, the wider business community. I'll pause. I do have a lot more to add, but I'll pause to see if our Vice Chair, Timothy Ingram, would like to chime in and just to give his thoughts on what's been happening.
Sure. Timothy Ingram.
I pretty much echo our chair's comments that it's really been a really tough year for businesses, and certainly we've had 1 or 2 businesses which have been fortunate enough to be in a space where they've been essential. But if you drive downtown Bay Street, our main tourist avenue, you see that the stores there are largely closed and have been for 12 months. You look at the taxi drivers, the persons working in the straw market, anything really connected with the tourist trade, it has been in shutdown mode for the last 12 months. So there's no doubt that this has been a serious impact on us. We're hopeful that with the vaccines now being rolled out, things will start to look up. But I think that we still have a bit of pain to go before we get to that point. We've seen hoarding of vaccines, for lack of a better word, by the larger, richer economies. And so that's meant that countries like ours can't get them on a very timely basis. Sometimes you look and you see one country has 85 million and you think, well, we only need 400,000. Can we just get those 400,000? You won't even miss it off the 85 million.
Wow.
But we think that there's still going to be a few months ahead, even though there's a really bright light at the tunnel. That, the unfortunate thing, for instance, for tourism is that we're emerging in a period of time when our tourist numbers over the summer tend to be lower than usual. So yes, it's been really tough. Some businesses haven't made it. Yesterday, I went to a business establishment and I noticed that the place next door to it had closed in the last week or two. It's a food and eatery. I called them last week, didn't get an answer. I thought they would just close for the day, but when I went yesterday, the place is being torn apart. So businesses are on the cutting edge, and some are still desperately trying to hang on at this point.
Any numbers as to how many have gone under as a result of this in the past 12 months?
We don't have any hard numbers at hand, and really, and we won't know until we get pretty much out the other end just how many have gone and how many haven't survived, because I think there's still some that are hoping that they will get back fully. But it depends on how much longer it takes us to get out from this phase we're in now. It's great to see the vaccines rolling out, but even that is moving at a slower pace than I'm sure most businesses would like, even though they enjoy seeing it at the moment.
What level of support has the Chamber of Commerce offered to businesses during these difficult times?
Thanks for that question. With regard to the level of support the Chamber has given, we're proud of the fact that we've been able to give not only just our members, but the wider business community support through our participation on the ERC as well as the National Coordinating Committee on COVID-19. And why I raise those committees is because, especially with the NCCC, in early days where the country was still trying to figure out and navigate its way through what will happen, what will the protocols be, the Chamber was front and center in giving recommendations that was fed directly up to the Office of the Prime Minister, and many of them implemented. So to name a few, the Chamber crafted the language for the delivery protocols as well as the curbside pickup protocols. We also were very instrumental, along with the Construction Association, in putting together the language for the construction industry protocol. And we saw that once those protocols were put in place, it allowed for more commerce to return. We also were instrumental in putting the recommendations forward in the phased reopening of the economy. From day one, our position had always been that businesses need to operate, and we need to operate in a safe manner. The only way to do that was to put in some protocols that allowed persons to ensure that not only were their staff safe, but consumers as well. So our advocacy, our access, and our advice, those are three pillars that the Chamber lives by. And we feel that we were able to put those into full gear during a time when the business community needed it most. We continued on with our support by giving access to various webinars, keeping in mind that before COVID-19, just like many businesses, the Chamber was a brick and mortar, in-person service support agency, essentially. And we were able to quickly pivot. Our staff have been working remotely from March of last year. And notwithstanding that pivot, we've been able to host webinars through the many different committees that we have, including a very big one that's high on the priority for not only the business community, but the country, which is digital transformation. We have a lot to speak about with regard to where we should be as a country in our digitization efforts. And the Chamber, again, is front and center at that level. I would also add that our partnership with the SBDC is still very strong. We participated on many of their grant approval committees so that grants could be extended to small businesses that needed to continue to operate or that needed some financial inflows so that they could operate. Again, I can go on, but I'll pause to see if there's anything Vice Chair would like to add.
No, the only thing I'd add is that we anticipate this to continue. So we've had quite a lot. If you go to SBDC's website, you'll see a lot of new businesses which have been formed in the last 12 months. And we feel that it's very essential to give those businesses the tools they need to be successful, to give them as much of an opportunity to succeed as we possibly can. So we're in the process of talking with SBDC to provide training in various areas where businesses or these new businesses and even existing businesses may feel that they could use some assistance. It may be, as our chair said, giving them advice on how to get onto digital platforms. It may be advice on how to run their finances properly, ensuring that they manage their cash flow. And so we're right now discussing with SBDC the need for this and looking at which courses are the best ones to offer out the gate and to ensure that we strengthen the atmosphere in which those small businesses are operating and give them the tools they need to become very vibrant and productive members of our business community.
Yeah. An area that has me confused is the dining in. As it relates to which restaurants can allow dining in. So I think there's a policy out there now that they're not really allowing persons to dine into the restaurants. But there are some restaurants that are standalone from the hotel, and they cater mainly to a lot of Bahamians, and they're allowed to be open in the name of they are a part of a hotel, which I think is unfair to a lot of the other restaurants because predominantly Bahamians go to these restaurants, and so they are making money while other restaurants are not allowed persons to dine indoors and are losing out on those funds. What is the Chamber's position on that? And are you actively trying to lobby for your members to have them at least a level playing field where they can allow dining in?
Well, with regard to that, the Chamber's position has always been, broadly speaking, to allow businesses to operate as much as possible with as few restrictions as possible, notwithstanding the current environment, and to ensure that those operations can be done in a safe manner. Having said that, we are advocating for indoor dining across the board, and it is on the basis that numbers remain relatively low. Now, keeping in mind we are not policymakers, so for the reason why that policy was implemented, we can't speak to that. What we can certainly speak to is that it is, in fact, our position that as many businesses should be open and able to operate with as few restrictions as safely as possible.
And does that include testing, or you are feeling that we can bypass that now, as some restaurants are definitely not doing that and still doing indoor dining?
Well, with regard to the testing, I think broadly speaking, testing goes into the regime of the medical community. Again, our position is one where, however it is necessary for businesses to operate safely, that is where businesses tend to put in their vested interest to ensure that they can operate safely. I think across the board, the business community has been one where whatever was needed to put in place to permit consumer engagement and protection, the business community has been doing that. Case in point, there has been a lot of protocols that have been implemented, and the cost of implementing those protocols came squarely on the shoulders of the business community. Now, we know that in order for our customers and our staff to feel safe, you have to make sure that certain things are in place. But immediately, in order to operate in a safe manner, businesses put in place the sneeze guards. They put in place the COVID-19 ambassador, one would say, who is at the front of the store, sanitizing persons' hands. Some have put in automatic hand sanitizer dispensers. So at every step of the way, the business community has come alongside and have been prepared to put in place the necessary measures to allow continued operation.
Just to add to what the chair says, I know some businesses have, some restaurants have put forward a proposal for a reduced capacity, as we see in many cities in the US, for instance, where they can just have 50% and they can ensure that persons are distancing, have as much ventilation as possible. So those kinds of things we support. If businesses feel they have the capacity to do the testing, that obviously enhances their ability to host indoor dining.
Mm-hmm.
And so we certainly support that effort to get as many of our restaurants open as possible. so that they can begin to rebuild their business.
Now we know that movie theaters are among the most recent to be allowed to reopen. But are there any other sectors that might not be familiar with that are still having issues, still not being allowed to operate, or at least in the way they used to be able to allow that are that is a concern for the chamber at this time? Anything else like that?
Well, I have spoken with one or two members in the legal profession, for instance, and they continue to operate in reduced capacity. They can only have so many persons in the office. And a number of other offices are like that, where they can only have a certain percentage of the staff in office. And obviously, whilst you can operate that way, it's probably not the most efficient way for a lot of businesses. I'll let the chair comment on this area as well.
So in support of what Tim said, yes, generally there are other office-related businesses and services that have not been able to allow for full capacity. I think generally we're finding, though, that many of those businesses, those offices, they have found a way to work remotely, albeit it still impacts the way they're able to do business, which will always be a concern for the chamber. Having said that, I think we can't stray too far away from what we've learned through all of this and the fact that the way we do business changed. It changed dramatically, it changed quickly.
Yes.
And that calls for having a look at how we do business moving forward, looking at our business continuity plans, looking at resiliency, looking at how we build technology into our everyday business, and looking at how best we use technology to service our consumer base.
Yeah, it does seem like some things have changed forever. I noticed one thing. A number of places that used to be open on Sundays aren't open. I'm not sure if they're not allowed to be open, but I know things change so quickly and people might be confused. But do we think that this is going to be, at least going forward, something that may be somewhat permanent? Are we expecting that will change forever? Some of the things that we took for granted and got used to before the pandemic?
I think everyone is looking towards a return to normalcy, to pre-COVID-19 days. And although one would say the vaccine is not a panacea to all of this, it is certainly a glimmer of hope. And it is certainly seen as a way for the economy to come back to somewhat of what it was. So that economic boost is something that all businesses are looking forward to. Having said that, I believe that we do need to look at the type of businesses that are operating now, how they're operating, and to see what can be done to provide additional support to those businesses. It's being said, and we touted, we believe it, that small, medium-sized enterprises, they're the lifeblood of the Bahamian economy. And the way the economy has been built, we need to ensure that we continue to find ways to support them. That is not at the exclusion of the larger businesses, because they all have a very pivotal role to play in our economy. And certainly from the Chamber's perspective, we do our best to support all size enterprises that operate within the Bahamas and try to provide opportunities for them, even in our matchmaking capabilities. There have been a number of webinars that's been hosted that have been able to introduce Bahamian businesses with international businesses, even at a time like now when we're not able to travel as much as we would have before. So the Chamber would have participated in virtual business forums and missions and extended those opportunities to our members.
Oh, excellent.
So what are your thoughts on the fact that layoffs and short-term redundancy have been waived until at the end of the emergency powers orders? What are your thoughts the thoughts from your members on this? Were they involved in that discussion, or were they involved in implementing that policy?
the chamber was involved in implementing that, and you have to look at it in a holistic way. The truth of the matter is, if you have reduced income and revenue shortfalls, but your expenses remain the same, then the question is, when you look at redundancy and redundancy payments, that comes at a huge cost. That those costs may be the death of those businesses for good. And ultimately, during this time when we're looking at recovery, we need to make sure that, yes, not only employees and workers are able to provide for their families, but we need to make sure that businesses survive this and are able to come out on the other side, because it's through businesses that when things return to a better state of normalcy, we'll be able to look at staffing capacity among other types of capacity and to rehire or to bring on more staff. So we really need to strike a fine balance in making sure employees and workers, as well as businesses, come out of this.
Yeah, definitely. All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back more, we want to talk with you about Crystal Ferguson and Timothy Ingram with the Bahamas Chamber of Commerce and Employers Confederation. We are looking back at the year that was, 1 year with COVID-19 in the Bahamas, and looking at the way forward. We want to do more of that when we get back from the break. This is Morning Blend Business here on Guardian Radio 96.9. Stay with us.
525,600 minutes, 525,000 moments, oh dear.
Hello, sir. Your credit card bill is due. Hello, sir. It's time for your monthly loan payment. Tired of creditors pounding at your door? Sign up for a debt consolidation loan from Fidelity Bank and consolidate your debt into one low monthly payment. What's more, you will also earn interest on a built-in savings account. The pandemic has curbed many freedoms, but at Fidelity, our focus is to help regain your financial freedom. Visit a branch or speak to Fidelity Bank at 356-7764. COVID safety measures in place at all branches. Fidelity, we're good for you.
Imagine. That's where every advancement begins, with an idea that things can be different, better, now. Imagine a world where your entertainment experience was all about you, your style, your show, at your budget. At Rev, that's what we've imagined. To join the conversation and learn more about the future of Rev TV, visit us at rev.bs/imagine.
Always on the go? Missed the show? You can now listen to Guardian Radio talk shows anytime, anywhere on Spotify and YouTube by searching Guardian Radio 96.9 FM or by entering the name of your favorite show. You can also listen by logging on to GuardianTalkRadio.com and clicking on the podcast tab. Guardian Radio, continuing to provide you with fresh news and smart talk anywhere, anytime, all day.
RBC and Visa bring you a benefit as unique as you to enjoy Disney Plus. Get 2 months of the all-new Disney Plus streaming subscription on us if you have an RBC Visa Platinum card. Learn more by visiting www.rbc.com/Caribbean/Disney. Reimagine new ways to bank better.
This is Guardian Radio 96.9 FM. Fresh news, smart talk, all day.
And we've got your final look at weather for this morning. Here's what's happening. We've got high pressure ridging that will continue to dominate weather across the country. Beachgoers should exercise caution, though, along East Coast beaches due to the slight risk of rip currents. For all areas today, forecasts calling for partly sunny and warm conditions with a few stray showers. Mostly fair tonight. Look for high temperatures around 81 Fahrenheit, 27 Celsius. Overnight lows tonight getting down to about 70 Fahrenheit, 21 Celsius. In your extended outlook, high pressure ridging will maintain stable conditions across the country. So for Tuesday, tomorrow, look for partly cloudy, warm, and breezy conditions with a chance of a few light passing showers. Wednesday, variably cloudy and warm with a stray shower or two possible. That's your morning blend weather check.
This is Guardian Radio 96.9 FM, Nassau, Bahamas.
525,600 minutes. 525,000 moments, oh dear. 525,600 minutes. How do you measure?
We're back here with Morning Blend Business on Guardian Radio 96.9. Dwight Strachan along with Pamela Musgrove. We are looking at COVID 1 year later. 1 year of this pandemic in the country. Talking with Crystal Ferguson, the chair of the Bahamas Chamber of Commerce Employers Confederation, along with Vice Chair Timothy Ingram. And Crystal, earlier you mentioned digitization and the need for that to be accelerated here. Let's talk about that, especially seeing as we know that before the pandemic, we had some companies that are still not accepting credit cards. They still don't want to deal with that even. But let's talk about that. And was this the wake-up call for those companies? Are they getting it now that we have to be more flexible when it comes to how we do business?
Yeah, I think generally speaking, everyone opportunity here amidst the crisis. And for many companies, they've been able to pivot and offer their services in a different way, in a more digitized way. We've seen definitely an increase in the amount of third-party payment providers. We've also seen an increase in the ability for businesses just generally to offer delivery services. So it is a realization that things had to change. It had to change quickly and have changed. I believe, however, that many of these services that came about because of the pandemic, they will stay, that they will be seen as an add-on service for many of these businesses, particularly because as things settle down and return to normalcy, it will show that these services and the ability to offer in-store pickup or delivery services or more digitized payment methods, it's convenient for the customers. And although businesses, they are in business to make a profit, the only way to make a healthy profit is to ensure that you have an increase in demand. And to make sure you have an increase in demand, it means that the economy must be in a particular place, agreed. However, you have to be doing things to service the needs of your customers, and that is essential, it's key.
So what was the
Just
penetration?
To add to what the chair is saying, I think we are seeing more businesses adopt digital payments. There's still some that haven't. I went into business on the weekend. If I order food from them on one of the popular apps, I can pay with my credit card. But if I go into the business, they don't take credit card type payments.
Very strange.
I think there's still a cost factor for a lot of small businesses around the use of the credit card, the digital payment. But I think those are coming down quite dramatically. So I think as we see that more companies or more businesses realize that the cost structure has come down, and the ease of use is a lot better, then we'll see more companies adapt to digital payments.
So before you go, Pam, and a number of people were talking about this before, but realizing how important it is to have especially if you're in retail, all your products online and having better websites. Are we seeing a shift with that finally here as well?
We're seeing a shift somewhat, but keeping in mind what the vice chair said, which is definitely something to consider, it is a cost factor. So some of the larger retailers, even when we were out canvassing our members to see who would move towards an online platform, many of them had spoke about the cost factor. So you have businesses that have thousands and thousands and thousands of goods that they offer to the public. The cost to migrate something like that from being in their POS system or in their inventory system to offer it in person to changing all of that out to offer online is a huge financial cost for some of them. Now, for some of the smaller businesses that can be a little bit more nimble with their products or who had started up around the whole digital transformation environment, many of them have been able to capitalize on offering online platforms and selling their goods that way. But we have to underscore that there is a cost involved in this, and many businesses may not be at a point where either they can afford to do it at this point in time, or it will take months upon months upon months to get it done for them.
So, what's the digital payment penetration prior to COVID compared to what it is now amongst your members in terms of a percentage?
Pam, I'm sorry, I didn't hear what you said, what you asked.
The digital payment penetration prior to COVID compared to now amongst your members in terms of a percentage?
Early last year, there was a survey that went out to our members on digital transformation. Our chair of that committee, Royanne Dean, she's really passionate about digital transformation. And we've been putting out surveys. That was at the beginning of all of this. I wouldn't speak to those percentages now because I think it would have changed dramatically. And what I'll do is stick in a shameless plug to say that whenever you all want the chamber to be back on the show, we'll definitely have updated data.
Okay.
And we could invite the chair of the Digital Transformation Committee so we could speak more broadly about digital and the transformation that the country and businesses have gone through.
Sounds wonderful. Sounds wonderful. Tim, I think you were saying something. You were saying something earlier?
Yeah, and I've started to say that, and it's just to recount a very quick experience I had over the holidays. Someone had put something on their gift list to me, and I usually would try and find it. So I looked online, I saw the item there, and then I decided to check a local provider. And to my very pleasant surprise, the provider had all of it was a clothing item. They had all of their clothing items on their website. I couldn't actually purchase the item on the website, but I could go to the website, I could see that they had it, I could see the cost. It saved me driving around trying to find this. It saved me the hassle of trying to order it from overseas. And even though I couldn't actually purchase it online, just the fact that I was saved the hassle of just driving and going to look for it was a lot for me. I just walked into the store. I said, "You have this item on your website. I'd like to buy it." And 3 minutes later, I was out the door. So even partially putting the goods on the website is very helpful for local shoppers.
Yep.
But I believe that as we come out of this pandemic and we go back to really bad traffic, the one thing we've had in the pandemic is that traffic hasn't been very bad. So
Right.
It's been really easy to move around.
It's picking up
So
now, though.
It is picking up.
As it starts to ramp up, I think you'll see more people be a lot more interested in the digital online purchases and having things delivered to them as opposed to going out.
Well, that brings up an interesting point. What are your members saying about allowing people to continue to work from home? Those that can, I guess, not retail, but more businesses saying, "Yeah, well, this was working, and let me do my part to help with that traffic situation as well." Allowing people to work at wherever they wish, not necessarily in the office.
I think you're going to see a lot of that here to stay, especially as some businesses look at their footprint, their physical infrastructure, and look to see whether it is necessary to have as large a footprint or physical premises as they have now. So with the fact that a lot of us had to quickly pivot into remote work, I think you will see where some offices just say, look, we will consider giving some sort of stipend for you to work remotely. That is not, I don't see that as something that will necessarily go away in its totality. If we look at our neighboring countries, many of those companies, they have decided to implement more work from home. Granted, a lot of that was even before COVID. It was in the push towards work-life balance, but COVID exacerbated it and made it more of a viable option, I would say, for some. But again, you have to look at the business model to see if that type of remote work fits in well with the particular business line of that enterprise.
I got a better understanding of, how things all connect. And I read an article where it said that the population in London had declined because, people were moving out of the city and they were going elsewhere. And it was talking about how businesses, the government was eager for businesses to be able to come back to the city to employ that person because it aided the hospitality industry. So all of those restaurants and all of those stuff that they so heavily depend on, they needed these office buildings there so people could buy out during lunchtime and even dinner to help with other persons in terms of keeping employment going. So is there any thought to that? I know persons are thinking or maybe thinking about working from home, but if you use that avenue, then you also affect another aspect or segment of the economy, the hospitality segment, where a lot of people desperately rely on those jobs.
Yeah, that's definitely a consideration. In fact, the story I told earlier about the eatery that had closed was near a hotel, and I suspect a lot of they depended on the hotel employees for a lot of their business. This was in the Western area, and those hotels there, Malay had just laid off quite a number of persons. So I think that impacted them. So unfortunately, there's going to be some of that. I've seen, for instance, one or two of the accounting firms who pretty much downsized their space and have staff working from home. Most of the staff tend to work remotely in customers' businesses anyway. And so they rotate on what's known as a hot desk system. You have to call in and book a space to go into the office. But that unfortunately is going to be something that we're going to see. But where it removes opportunities in one area, I think it's going to create opportunities in another. We saw a restaurant near on my way home. I noticed they closed down one day, and I thought, well, it's sad they closed. But they realized that most of their business recently has been coming from another part of town, and people were telling them, well, I'm driving from somewhere else to come to get my food. And so they backed up and they moved to the other side of town.
Oh, my goodness. Wow, look at that. All right, so I want to ask you about this. We know that this has been quite an unprecedented year. So many people have been laid off or furloughed and entirely lost their job. But the talk has been great about minimum wage in the country and increasing it. Would love to get the Chamber's perspective on this. What do you make of it at this time?
Any discussion with regard to minimum wage must be looked at holistically, Dwight, and notwithstanding it is a topic that's being discussed in many different quarters, you also have to parse that with studies around productivity. So you have to have a holistic conversation about minimum wage, livable wage, and workforce productivity. And the Chamber, through its participation on the National Tripartite Council, which is principally charged with looking at these matters, we're able to weigh in and give our recommendations there. But we would be, our position generally is having a holistic conversation about it. I think that's where we have to start that debate.
What is the productivity rate? Because I could read in other countries where they would that number is publicized out there, and they tell you if it's increasing or decreasing. What is the Bahamas' productivity rate?
The productivity rate in the Bahamas has been on a decline, but it is something that is being worked on. There is the International Labor Organization. They have been doing a study locally and throughout the region on how to get productivity up. They're also looking at a number of other issues that impact the way we do business, labor force related matters, employment matters. Another matter that's being discussed is the Decent Country Work Program, which the Bahamas is quite pleased to say we are among the first in the region to have that type of study done for a second time in our country. So there are strides being made. There's still work to be done on both divides, and the chamber will do its part in representing the business community in a very fair and transparent way.
Let's see if we can squeeze this call in very quickly before we wrap up. Good morning, caller. You're on Morning Blend Business.
Morning, Mr. Dwight. Strachan, how are you?
Doing well.
Miss Pam
Good morning.
and your guests.
Good morning.
I just need to know if I understood Miss Crystal correctly. Did she say, Miss Crystal, did you say, ma'am, that you were a part, meaning the chambers, as it relates to the extension of the emergency powers orders and workers not being paid, redundancy is really to protect the business owners? Did you say that, ma'am? Or could you explain it for me, please?
Well, thank you
so
for
much.
your question. I did not
Thanks, Phil.
say that the chamber was a part of extending the emergency powers orders. We have no control in that. We're not policymakers. With regard to recommendations for redundancy pays, what I said about that was that you have to look at the cost for businesses to pay redundancies. And for many businesses, they're not in a position to do it because in paying that right now, it would be the death of many, many businesses, which in an environment like this, we need to strike a balance to make sure that workers and employees are able to provide for their families on the one hand, but similarly for businesses to survive the impacts of COVID-19. So it's about striking that balance.
All right. How can people get in contact with the chamber if they have concerns about their business, if they need some assistance, some of that advocacy we talked about earlier? What's the best way?
Best way to get in contact with us is via email info@thebahamaschamber.com. We also have our website that's fully operational. We have all of the information there relative to recommendations. We have a blog there. The email address, the website, is www.thebahamaschamber.com. And it's a pleasure to represent the business community now, even through navigating all of these challenges, and we will continue to do just that.
Okay. All right. Excellent stuff. As you said, we're going to take you up on that offer to come back and talk about the digitization. But Crystal Ferguson and Timothy Ingram, thank you very much for being here with us this morning, and glad that we are all here after this year that we've had and able to talk about it. Thank you again for all the work you're doing at the Bahamas Chamber of Commerce and Employers Confederation.
Thank you for having us.
All right.
Thank you.
Pamela Musgrove.
Thank you, Dwight. Have a blessed week, Bahamas.
I'll see you next week. I'll be back tomorrow morning with more Morning Blend business here on Guardian Radio right after Morning Blend. Everybody have a great day. Stay tuned for On the Clock with Aaron Green coming up next.
This is Guardian Radio, 96.9 FM, Nassau, Bahamas.